you'll finally be able to afford insurance. And everyone will have the security and stability that's missing today.
Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius did acknowledge some people will see their health care costs go up.
I just see a huge train wreck coming on. You and I have discussed this many times, and I don't see any results.
I happen to be a proponent of a single-payer universal health care plan.
Never said that we should try to go ahead and get single-payer.
The president has directed us to take action to fight these cartels, and Attorney General Holder and I are taking several new and aggressive steps as part of the administration's comprehensive plan.
I'm not sure the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
I heard on the news about this story that Fast and Furious.
These protests, reaction to a video that many Muslims find offensive.
This video is disgusting and reprehensible.
I don't care how offensive this video was, and it was terribly offensive. And we should shun it.
What happened this week in Cairo, in Benghazi, and many other parts of the region was a result, a direct result of a heinous and offensive video.
Pastor Wise, the ambassador, had said there was a demonstration when the embassy had reported only an attack.
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or is it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully techie somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
So you got to wonder about people who want to get something done on their agenda, and they don't care what the cost is. They will lie to you and deny to themselves. Here we go. It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Phone number, of course, if you want to get involved, 307-363-4093. That's the number. That's 307-363-4093. And pretty much everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more, you find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. Now, I remember telling you guys, no big prediction here. No prediction was needed. It was obvious. Told you guys that when the Supreme Court ruled against the Obama administration and the EPA and said, look, you've got to take into account how much whatever proposal you have for clean energy or whatever, carbon emissions, whatever. You've got to take into account how much it's going to cost the economy, how much it's going to cost the government, which is our money, of course. Is there a price tag on this thing? And is it a negative effect? Is it going to cost jobs? You have to take that into account because at some point, I know some of you are going to find this hard to believe, but the EPA actually said, we don't have to take that into account. I remember reporting that to you. Their words, not mine. So, okay, now the Supreme Court says you do have to take those numbers into account. Fine. I remember at the time I said to you, so what's going to happen is this doesn't end the EPA or the Obama administration. This doesn't stop them from continuing to write their rules, which are laws, regarding carbon emissions. They don't care. They're just going to say, fine, we're going to take it into account. And then they're just going to tell you what the price tag. They'll even lie about the price tag, but they'll mention some numbers anyway, just to get a pass. Well, that's exactly what's happening, which is why for the past few days you've been hearing and reading about the EPA and the Obama, and Obama's going out and telling the nation that we have to do this. This is necessary. We have to cut carbon emissions. By the way, for those people living in Campbell County, Wyoming, where I am as well, by the way, you're not going to like the number of jobs that this is probably going to cost the state of Wyoming. Oh, and if you're in government in Campbell County, Wyoming, if you're working for the city or the state, or you're, for that matter, an elected official in the city or the state, this is not the time to expand your rock pile museum. Yeah, folks, there's a place called the Rock Pile Museum. This is not the time to build your field of broke. Things are contracting. There's a slowdown out there in the energy industry for multiple reasons. And one of the biggest reasons is the Obama administration. But you guys want to continue expanding and building away when rigs are being pulled in and literally coal mining companies are going bankrupt. And then here comes the EPA and President Obama. But you guys want to expand anyway. Okay, well, this is government for you, from the local level to the national level. Oh, no, we just got to spend this money. Really? You live in an area that's prone to boom and bust. Here comes another bust, just when you thought there was going to be a boom. Hadn't learned that lesson yet. I don't know why they can't. Well, okay. From the Daily Caller, here's some numbers for you. Daily Caller story reads, the EPA's laws, limiting carbon dioxide emissions from power plants is expected to cost billions of dollars per year and hundreds of thousands of jobs. So President Obama unveiled the Clean Air Plan, which they're calling CPP. Well, okay, so if it's Clean Power Plan, CPP. Go ahead and make that up as an acronym for something else, if you will. Just make sure if you call with it, we can use it on the air. What does CPP stand for? Monday is when he announced this. Wants to cut CO2 emissions from power plants 32% below 2005 levels by 2030 and limit emissions from newly built plants. So the president says the law is key to galvanizing global support for United Nations climate agreements, but it will come at a huge cost to the economy here. So, quote, the final plan will shutter 66 more power plants, eliminating 25,800 jobs in the coal industry. Wow. 125,800 jobs in the coal industry. Now, I tell you why that really breaks my heart. There's a lot of reasons that breaks my heart. But I'm living in Campbell County, Wyoming. About 40% of the nation's coal comes from here, which means I know a lot of people that are in this industry. So when they hear a number like that, they right away start thinking about their own mortgage, their own car payments, their own kids when they see a number like that. And no, your president doesn't care. He thinks everything's going to be hunky-dory. According to Sam Batkins, director of regulatory policy at the American Action Forum, he says perhaps most alarming, using the 2012 baseline for coal generations and projections for the 2030 output, the industry could shrink by up to 48%. Now, that would be at $8.4 billion. The CPP is almost 10 times more expensive than the most burdensome rule of 2015 to date. So it's not just job losses that have everybody worried. The rule, as they call it, the law, could also cost the economy up to $2.5 trillion by 2030. In other words, slow down the economy. I haven't even gotten to how high your electric rates would go by then. The year the rule is expected to be fully implemented, Nick Loris, who's an energy economist with the Conservative Heritage Foundation, wrote that the cumulative economic impact of higher energy prices would be hundreds of thousands of jobs lost and more than 2.5 trillion lost in economic growth. Now, if you're thinking, okay, they don't quite know these numbers for a fact, you're right, they're projecting. But part of what they're projecting on, I would say they're probably in the ballpark. I wouldn't say they're exact, but part of what they're projecting on is what's happening in Europe right now. Because, well, Europe's decided to do the exact same thing. Let's take a look at what's happening in Europe right now. There's your answer. Why Germany, for example, why Spain is in so much trouble because of their green energy initiatives. These things are happening right there. So these projections are within the ballpark of what we already know to be true. So the plan gives states 1 year to formulate a plan to cut CO2 emissions from power plants. So in other words, it's up to your governor, your state legislator to figure out how to get it done. Those states can get a 2-year extension on complying. The EPA, however, claims that this gives states flexibilities to make plans for them to work out their regional economics and economies. In the end, the agency claims the rule would bring about $34 billion to $54 billion in public health benefits. You know, by the way, we went through those projections yesterday. Well, no, they're just the EPA at this point is making up numbers for health benefits. They're the ones who actually are just inventing numbers as they go, projecting on they don't know what. But then again, these are also the people who told you that Florida and the UK would be underwater by now because of climate change, and it's simply not happening. Unless, of course, you're Tim in Tampa, where it started raining on his house, about 2 weeks ago, Tim, and it hasn't stopped since? Other than that, Florida's just fine. The UK is just fine. The seas are not rising like they said. The ice caps are not melting like they said. The agency, the EPA, claims the law that they're writing would avoid 1,500 to 3,600 premature deaths. They don't know that. 90,000 asthma attacks in children and up to 1,700 heart attacks among health benefits. So they assume all of that comes from coal-fired power plants? The EPA's idea of flexibility on this doesn't soften the economic blow. Just means that families, individuals, businesses will incur higher costs through different state or economic mechanisms, said some analysis out there. And, quote, this is a quote, by placing the entire onus on the states to devise their own carbon-cutting plans, the federal government evades all accountability to Americans. By the way, let's stop and talk. And this was only going to, if this were to actually change the planet's temperature, which it won't, it would change it by 0.01 degrees Celsius decades down the road. Maybe. They don't really know that. By the way, they say these clean air rules, they want us to cut CO2 emissions. Please tell me, is there some expert out there that can tell me, what does CO2 have to do with somebody's asthma? Really? Okay, so they want to cut pollutants. What does CO2 have to do with somebody getting lung cancer? Now, when they talk about other emissions from power plants, I'm still going to dispute their numbers because primarily what comes out of these power plants is steam. Their numbers are faulty, but let's just ask about the CO2 part for now. What if they had turned to the power plants and said, we want you to cut the amount of arsenic, for example, that leave your steam stacks. We want you to cut the amount of arsenic by this much. There's certain particulate matter that comes out that is considered bad for people who have asthma. We want you to cut that. But what does CO2 have to do with asthma? What does CO2 have to do with lung cancer? Yet they're saying that by cutting the CO2 coming out of these power plants, it's going to save people from, it doesn't make sense. There's a plan, and I'm going to read it coming up after the commercial break here, but there's a story that I came across. I think it's from the Wall Street Journal here. We'll have a look. It's a 3-point plan for what states can do to fight the president on this. But they needed to put in there a fourth option, which you and I talked about yesterday. And a fourth option which would work, and you and I are going to talk about that fourth option next.
Your national dead clock countdown for August 5th, 2015. 18 trillion, 334 billion. And now a message from future generations. Time to pay the piper. Oh, that sounded horrifying. This has been your national dead clock count.
Please join us Saturday, August 1st at 2 p.m. for the tribute to the Upton and Wright, Wyoming fallen heroes. First Lieutenant Stephen Bowl, Vietnam Staff Sergeant
Smithers, you look exhausted.
Oh, sir, I was at the office half the night.
Really? Well, that's the third night this week.
Yes, sir. I just can't seem to stay away. I'm not sure what's gotten into me.
Dedication, son. I haven't seen that kind of work ethic in years.
Right. Well, I'll probably be at the office late again tonight. There's just so much to do.
You'll want to work late every night at the Office Saloon with Doc McGillicuddy Monday, Tap That Tuesday, Screw It Wednesdays, Thirsty Thursdays, and thank God it's Friday with Bud and Bud Light specials. And at the office, you'll even want to work weekends, Saturday nights, ladies' nights, and mini-me Sunday. Work late at the Office Saloon, U.S. Highway 14 in Gillette, Wyoming, out toward the airport.
Smithers, is there any luck with that client you've been chasing?
Oh, yes, sir. Last night, she gave me her phone number.
Attaboy, Smithers. Attaboy. Hey, man, what's up?
Nice weather, that's what. It's finally warm enough to light up the grill.
Hey, I'm on my way. Hey, do you need anything? I'm stopping at Don's Supermarket first.
Keeping it local, I like it. Could you pick up some hot dogs and some buns and maybe some charcoal?
Yeah, no problem. Is there anything else you need?
Yeah, can you also pick up some top sirloin steak? $6.49 a pound. Oh, and some Oscar Mayer Lunchables. They're $2 a piece. We also need some Pillsbury Grand Biscuits. They're 3 for $5. And some Nabisco Chips Ahoy cookies. They're 2 for $5. We could also use some Navel oranges. $1.19 a pound. Oh, and some California seedless grapes. $1.99 a pound. I also need some Top Care mouthwash. $2.49 a piece. They're all on sale until Tuesday.
Really? You want some matches to light that grill too?
No, I have a match. Well, just one. So you might need to pick some of those up too. It's a good thing you're going to Don's because, they have everything. Hello? Hello? Don Supermarket in Gillette, 1501 West 2nd Street.
I'm Professor Burke from Farmers Insurance, and this is 30 Seconds of Smart. So you want discounts on your home insurance? Upgrade your roof. Upgrade your plumbing. Get a burglar alarm. Get a fire alarm. Combine policies with your spouse. Bundle your coverage. Quit smoking. And of course, talk to farmers, because the more you know about home insurance, the more you can save.
We are farmers.
Get smarter about your insurance at farmers.com.
Stop by and see Lyle Austin, 201 West Lakeway Road in the Lakeway Professional Center, 686-5002. That's 686-5002. Stand by to launch Bold Sat 1. More radio stations are ready to pick up the Bold Republic radio show, but only if we can get to them by satellite. Be part of the program and find out how helping us get up on the bird can benefit you, your church, your civic organization, or your business. Just log in to boldrepublic.com and click on the satellite.
If you're a free-thinking individual, you'll love this show. If you're not, well, I hear Justin Bieber is twerking with Miley on the pop station. Ew. For the thinkers, here's Glenn Woods.
Who's never twerked in his life?
Okay, so let's take a few more numbers and pull them together. In fact, wait. Let's take a look at what a scientist has to say. So for those just joining me, yeah, the president plans to shut down more coal mines, EPA rules and regulations, which are supposed to do things like prevent asthma, emphysema, and cancer by regulating CO2. What does CO2 have to do with any of that? So you can say, well, again, they'll mix it all up and throw it out there, and there's people stupid enough to hear it and say, oh, we have to because CO2 is a pollutant. If you think CO2 is a pollutant, just look at yourself in the mirror and say the following words: I know nothing about science. Quote, James Hansen, who's a climate researcher and headed NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies for over 30 years, and first warned Congress of global warming back in 1988. He says of the president's plans, these actions are worthless. They do nothing to attack the fundamental problem. You've got to be kidding. Wow. So the president gets on Air Force One. You know how much CO2 Air Force One alone dumps into the atmosphere as it flies? And then he has a fleet of airplanes that are even bigger than Air Force One that have to follow him with all of the SUVs and so on and so on. So that's the president worrying about the climate, taking that trip to Alaska and dumping all that CO2, which he says is dangerous. Okay, so the president wants to cut power plant emissions by 32% by 2030. Going to close down a lot of power plants, cost a lot of jobs. Raise the price of your electricity as well. So let me go back and read that again. James Hansen, climate researcher, headed the NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies for over 30 years. He's the dude who first warned Congress of global warming back in 1988. Quote James Hansen, "These actions, the president's actions, are particularly worthless. They do nothing to attack the fundamental problem. You've got to be kidding." Wow. Well, if that's the case, Mr. Hansen, why do we do it at all? He wrote, when asked if the plan would make continued climate activism necessary, he said Obama's plan, for that matter, the proposed plan of the Democrat frontrunner Hillary Clinton, he says, is like the fellow who walks to work instead of driving and thinks he's saving the world. Oh, I got to read that again. So if you walk to work instead of driving and you think you're saving the world, according to James Hansen, who was warning about global warming from NASA, the Goddard Institute, back in 1988, he said, absolutely useless. He's basically calling you a fool. Hansen suggested a gradual raising the fee for extracting coal, collecting at the port of entry, and so on. In other words, he's talking about raising prices. He said the right direction is away from a global temperature rise of 2 degrees Celsius is above pre-industrial times. In other words, according to him, we've already passed the milestone. We would have to go back to pre-industrial times in order to save the planet. Think about that. We would have to go back to the time before human beings had factories and cars and airplanes in order to save the planet. Well, if that's the case, we're all going to be living in third world countries at that point, aren't we? Hey, let me ask you a question. And this is a challenge for everybody listening right now. Can any of you out there name a time for me when the climate was not changing? Take a look at the history of the planet Earth. Name a time for me when the planet was not changing. Okay, now for those people listening, well, that's just a challenge. Call in if you got it. Okay, now, for those listening in the Dakotas, Wyoming, Montana, you're familiar with, especially, like eastern Wyoming, western Dakotas. You're familiar with K2 News? They drove, Coda Territory News. They drove to Gillette, Wyoming, and decided to have a conversation with some county commissioners and other people in the coal industry about the president's plans. And they said this is going to cost Wyoming about 11,000 jobs. And there's as near as they can tell so far. And they're looking at it, shrugging their shoulders, trying to figure out what we're going to do here. Okay, so what do we do here then? Well, next up, I have for you a story where a writer from a major publication came up with 3 ideas as to how we can fight this. And I looked at it and thought, I've got to send this guy a note because there's a 4th idea that was written up in the Wall Street Journal that you and I talked about yesterday, and he didn't think about it. There's more than one way to handle this. I like the 4th idea best. All right, your jobs are on the line. We got to do something about this. You can't sit this one out, guys. Even if you're not in the energy industry, but you're in this part of the country, you can't sit this one out.
Life is all about perspective. You see a tropical holiday. We see a business meeting. You see your grandmother. We see your inheritance. You see a kilo of Coke. We see a liquid asset. You see a tax bill. We don't see anything. You see a jail. We see record profit. What do you see with HSBC?
Ma'am, I pulled you over because you failed the signal on that last turn.
I used my turn signal, I swear.
Has this ever happened to you? Have you been ticketed for not using your turn signal, even though you have? Have you checked your blinker fluid lately? Well, how about you check your local auto parts dealer for OK Blinker Fluid, an indicator lamp lubricant. With OK Blinker Fluid, your turn signals will work bright and smooth. And while you're there, ask for other OK engine products. OK engine rotator splints, OK muffler bearings, OK piston turn springs to make sure your pistons turn smoothly, and OK hypertension headlight valves. OK products. For the person who knows nothing about their car, we have everything. OK Auto Products by Snake Oil.
Honey, Mommy needs to borrow some money.
But again? But what happened to my birthday money that Grandma gave me that you borrowed?
Christmas is coming soon. I'm sure you'll get more from her.
And I caught Dad in my piggy bank the other night. What's going on?
Well, since the federal government is determined to spend all of your money before you've earned it, we just figured we'd get there first.
You spent all my inheritance, haven't you?
You're young. You'll have plenty of time to earn it back.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Bold Republic Financial Services. Well, we're advising you to spend all of your children's money and grandchildren's and great-grandchildren's before the government gets hold of it. Because if they get a hold of it first, there'll be nothing left for you.
I'm putting you two into a government rest home when you get old.
Oh, no, honey. We'll all be homeless long before that. Honey, are you looking at porn?
What? No. I'm just trying to figure something out.
Well, we've been married 15 years. You should have it all figured out by now, don't you think?
No. Something about the internet.
Except for that one thing. You've never figured that out.
No, listen. The NSA is all over the internet, right?
Right.
And they can hack into anything at any time and monitor, right?
Right. Okay. We all know that.
Why was the internet invented?
So nerds could see naked women without purchasing it over the counter. Everybody knows that.
So the government wants to control the internet.
So that they can control the porn. Oh my gosh.
And if they control the online porn industry?
They control us all. Or do you think they just want to control it because bureaucrats can't get it either?
Yeah, that's probably it.
Mm-hmm.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Hotline. If you are obsessive compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. If you are codependent, ask someone to press 2 for you. If you have multiple personalities, press 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you are paranoid, we know what you are and what you want. Stay on the line and we'll trace your call. If you're delusional, press 7 and your call will be transferred to the mothership. If you are schizophrenic, listen carefully and a small voice will tell you which number to press. If you are depressive, it doesn't matter which number you press, no one will answer you. If you're dyslexic, press 69696969. If you have a nervous disorder, please fidget with the hash key until the beep. After the beep, please wait for the beep. If you have a short-term memory loss, please try your call again later. And if you have low self-esteem, hang up. All our operators are too busy to talk to you.
Need to let off a little steam? Yep, that's why we installed phone lines into the studio. Call Glenn now. Old Republic is on the air. Here's Glenn Woods.
It's a Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. As always, pretty much everything I talk about, a whole lot more, you find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. We're talking about the energy industry because President Obama, the EPA, are issuing what they call rules, but they're laws. And I've debated and argued with some people, even on our side of the argument, the limited government side of the argument, about the difference between a rule and a law. And I'm proud to say I always come out on top of this because, well, no, it's real simple. I don't care what they consider it, those people who are writing the rules or the laws or those people who are examining it. Let me tell you what a law is. If I have to do it or else, or if I'm caught doing it and I'm punished, it's a law. Okay, so EPA sits down and writes what they call rules. All right, now, if a power company doesn't comply with those rules, what happens? They're punished. Therefore, it's a law. So the EPA, the Obama administration wrote law through the EPA. That's essentially what happened here. So I asked a question just before the break, and this is going to cost us, by the way, trillions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of jobs and higher electricity rates as well. And we do know this. We know this to be true because it's happening in Europe right now. So we know this to be true. So I asked a question. This is all supposed to help us fight climate change, which even James Hansen, who is a guy who's been a proponent for climate change from NASA for the past 30 years, says that this proposal by the Obama administration is completely useless. Even he says that. And he wants to save the planet. He wants to shut down coal-fired power plants, but he says this proposal by the president doesn't do a thing. So I asked the question, can you name a time for me when the Earth's climate was not changing? Name a time. Look throughout history. Was there ever a time when the planet Earth's climate was not changing? Chris, you win the prize. He writes, the Earth's climate, he sent this to me on the video stream. He said the Earth's climate wasn't changing about 4.6 billion years ago because the Earth didn't exist 4.6 billion years ago. Therefore, the climate can't change. See, he's right. If the Earth doesn't exist, then the climate can't change. So there will be a time at some point when the climate of the Earth will no longer be changing. And that's when the Earth no longer exists. And at some point, that'll happen. Okay. From the Hill Online, they write a great article, 3 lines of attack against President Obama's climate change rule, but they leave one out. So I'll cut to the chase for it. 1, legal challenges. Even in my own state of Wyoming, the governor, who is a former attorney, wants to get with other states, and they want to go ahead and sue in a court of law, a big suit go to the Supreme Court on this, and fight the Clean Air Act and so on. That could work. That might not work. Because, well, in the past, it hasn't worked. And that's where, the EPA and the Obama administration says, Congress gave us the authority to regulate CO2. No, they gave you the authority to regulate pollutants in the air. CO2 is not a pollutant. They declared it a pollutant so they could regulate it. That's what they ought to fight in court on, but no, that's not going to work. Congressional attacks. Mitch McConnell and other Republican leaders have pledged to do everything in their power to block regulations as their party has assailed. The story reads, the Obama administration for their war on coal. Well, okay, the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works will meet Wednesday to vote on a bill sponsored by a senator of West Virginia to overturn the regulations. Well, that's flat out not going to work. All right, let's say they got it passed, which they won't. But let's say they actually got this passed. Well, do you think that President Obama would actually sign the damn thing? Well, no. Obviously not. So why are you even bothering with that? Well, hold on. Actually, I can think of 2 more ways, not 1 more way, a 4th and 5th way that we can fight this that isn't mentioned in this article. Hang on, I'll explain it next.
Windfall profit tax? I'm being taxed for success?
You've earned it. It's not greedy. You want to keep it. Be bold, live free.
What would you do without her? Do you ever stop and think about that? The simple truth is, you never want to find out. I'm Bruce Marshall. This anniversary, love her with diamond jewelry from Marshall Jewelry. When you hand her that little box, you say to her, "What would I do without you, honey?" And when she opens it, you tell her, "I never want to find out." Your life together is the only life you want. We're open 9 to 6, Monday through Saturday. Interest-free financing with approved credit. Marshall Jewelry, where she'll love it, guaranteed.
An ode to Jack's Liquor, the adult daycare center. The weather is warming. The birds are swarming. The outdoors would be great if I could escape my fate. We could go fishing, but I'm probably just wishing. I need to relax, so I think I'll go to Jack's. It's the best place in town, where no one there gets me down. The drinks are good and the beer is cold. It's the adult daycare center, or so I'm told. I can go there and have some fun, because prices there are second to none. It's the one place that's full of cheer. Let's go to Jack's and have a beer. They're at 302 East 2nd Street. Oh yeah, that's the place to meet. Jack's Liquor and Bars in Gillette. A great time and prices is what you'll get. So stop in when you're around. It's the best place to get unwound.
In today's world, it's almost impossible to keep up with all your messages, especially if you own or manage a business. And let's face it, voicemails aren't personal. If you believe customer service is a priority, call Star Communications. With Star Communications, you have a real person who actually lives and works in America answering your phone 24/7 or anytime that you would like to schedule. Star Communications will take messages, forward your calls, monitor your alarm system, handle your radio dispatches, driver check-ins, and man-down services. No matter what sort of business you own, reliable, affordable, Star Communications. In fact, we use them here at American Standard Media and the Bold Republic Radio Show. So call them now to set up your business with reliable service and communications. Star Communications. 307-682-5106. That's 307-682-5106. Star Communications.
Hey, honey, are you mad at me?
No, what makes you think that?
You kind of got steam coming out of your ears.
It's not coming out of my ears. I'm vaping, like smoking without the smoke. And Hothead Vapor in Gillette has more flavors than you can shake a stick at.
Hothead Vapors in Gillette, Wyoming. Electronic cigarettes, liquids, and accessories with a large selection of personal vaporizers, kits, mods, tanks, accessories, and over 260 flavors of e-liquids. 404 South Douglas Highway, Gillette, Wyoming. Open Monday through Friday, 10 till 8 p.m. weekdays, 12 to 8. And no matter where you are, you can find great deals online at hotheadvapors.com.
So, you like vaping over smoking?
Oh, heck yeah. And no stinky mess. So many flavors, and it helps me relax.
Are you relaxed now?
Sure.
Good. Because, well, I accidentally dropped the cigarette ash on your new shirt. Kind of burned a hole through it. All right, now there's steam coming out of your ears.
Hothead Vapors in Gillette, Wyoming.
We here at the radio station are firmly convinced the pod people have taken over the minds of your elected officials. Well, it's either that or they're just that stupid and crazy. Which is more plausible? I'll let Clem explain. Here he is.
So here I is. It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So I'm looking at an article from the Hill Magazine trying to take a look at options to save your jobs. If you're working in places like Campbell County, or for that matter, anywhere in Wyoming, Montana, in Dakotas, in the energy industry, from the EPA and the Obama administration. So one possible solution from the Hill, they say, well, Congress can, they're talking about passing a bill that would end, these regulations from the EPA. That won't work. You have to get the president to sign it. You don't have a veto-proof majority on something like this. It isn't going to work. Why are you even bothering? You got to do something that the president can't fight. Now, we've talked about this before. You want to save 11,000 jobs in Wyoming alone? Want to keep your electric bill from skyrocketing? All right. Hey, Congress, this is real simple. It's you guys control the money. Threaten to cut off the money to the EPA if they don't pull these rules. There. Simple. Boom. Done. That's it. And I don't trust Mitch McConnell anyway. Well, no, come on. What does he get done? He can't even fight. Right now, he's supposed to be fighting Planned Parenthood. Can't even get that done. Mitch McConnell says these aren't the only legislative options Congress can consider. We can pursue other avenues. Congressional Review Act, resolutions and further appropriation riders. And these regulations are published and they're, this is according to Mitch McConnell. These are his solutions. He's not thinking outside the box. He takes a look at how things are done in Congress and he's going according to the narrow rules that are written. He's not going to get anything done. The Congressional Review Act, and if you don't know what that is, that provides expedited avenue for overturning regulations, but they're still subject to a presidential veto. So what's the point? John Boehner, you holding your breath on him? He also promised to fight the new laws. The House passed a bill last month specifically to weaken and delay them. And that's gotten us where? Okay, so Republicans don't have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. So Obama will still win. Quote, do I think McConnell or Boehner will put their leadership power behind a Congressional Review Act to challenge as soon as possible? Yeah, I suspect that, says one congressman. But again, look, see, they're using all of these procedural moves. Hey, John Boehner, Mr. Boehner, the House of Representatives controls the purse strings on this one. Cut off the money to the EPA until they fix this. Boom, done, over. Okay, so the next thing that the Hill says, they make this sound so complicated. You know what? These are people who live in Washington, D.C., and they're incapable of thinking outside the box. That's the problem. A Republican president would be one. Yeah, that's another possibility, a Republican president. What are they missing here again? This is something where I don't care what state you're in. Your governor needs to think outside the box. Washington Post, I believe, Wall Street Journal had an article, which you and I talked about yesterday, which is simply just the states ignore this. If the states, the energy producing states, their governors got together and said, we're just simply not going to comply with this. Well, there's so many states that would not be in compliance. There's really not a whole lot that the federal government can do about it. Now, the problem we have is, like, let's take Matt Mead, our governor of Wyoming. He's a lawyer. Well, you know, that's what the rules are and the law says, so we have to comply with it. There's the problem with electing a guy like this. Because he looks at it and says, well, you got to do it. It's what the rules say. It's what the court said. I mean, it's what the president, and the EPA did. And unless you go through all of these procedural hurdles, there's really nothing you can do about it. Here's a thought: just refuse to comply. Now, if you're thinking, well, then the federal government cuts off money to the state of Wyoming. Let them. Do you know how much money the state of Wyoming makes on coal? The state of Wyoming makes a ton of money on coal. We don't need federal government money. We're fine. We're self-sufficient in that sense. Now, if you're worried, well, we wouldn't be able to sell coal across state lines. If we cooperate with other states, we can. If the states cooperate with each other, we can ignore the feds on this one and thus save it. But what we have right now are people from your state government to your federal government who are entrenched in their old ideas. This is the problem I have with career politicians. You know what smart companies, smart businesses do every so often is that the smart ones, that is, they go looking for people who think outside the box. They go looking for new innovative ideas. If they don't get new innovative ideas, they stagnate and die. Okay. We need new people with new innovative ideas so they can actually get something done. Remember when the President of the United States promised this?
If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor.
Well, now you can.
Honey, it's Dr. Phillips. What a surprise. Is this a social call?
Well, sort of. More like a socialist call.
Yes, now because of the intrusion of big government on the medical industry, you can have a doctor in the privacy of your own home.
Well, I'm going to have to move in with you. That is, if you want to keep your healthcare provider.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, since you're going out of business, you can find out how to keep your own doctor in the privacy of your own home just by going to healthcare.gov. Oh, wait. That website's not working. Well, just look on a street corner for a doctor holding up a "Will Medicate for Food" sign. Invite him on home.
I have nowhere else to go.
Keep him in your guest room, your basement.
Well, Chris is off to college. He can use that room.
Absolutely not.
Well, he can help me with my gout.
Go! I'm good at go!
Brought to you by the Obama administration, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C.
The end of the year is almost near, and often our minds drift to Obama, the 44th president. His administration has been in office since 2009 and has given us many memorable scandals. And now you can share in them all at your home. With the Obama Scandals collectible paper plate series, recommended by the Cap and Trade Exchange. Join now and receive a series of plates commemorating government spending on Solyndra, the IRS crackdown on conservatives, the Fast and Furious scandal, and many, many more.
Endless parade of political posturing and phony scandals.
The parade of scandals are all here, like Benghazi, and they're made of paper, so when things get messy...
Hey, I'm all done. Should I throw this away?
What difference at this point does it make?
You just move them out of the way. From obtaining reporters' phone records to NSA surveillance and data mining, all the scandals are here.
Nobody is listening to your telephone calls.
And who could forget the Obamacare website rollout?
Hey, my plate came with a glitch.
Don't worry, just keep signing up. Eventually, we'll get it right. These valuable paper collector plates aren't available in stores, so call now and sign up to serve up your feast of scandals all year long.
Order your Obama scandal plates now. Supplies are limited.
A radio show? Yeah, tip of the iceberg. Check out the YouTube videos. See what Glenn's talking about on Facebook and Twitter. You can find...
Radio show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. As always, pretty much everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more. You find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. Phone number to get involved, 307-363-4093. That's 307-363-4093. So, okay. From Montana Watchdog. You know, there's this group out there called watchdog.org, and they also go state by state with it. Montana Watchdog. Story by Rob. Yeah, I'm going to try this. Ready? Nikolowski. Nikolowski. Nikolewski. Nikolowski? That's a guess there. I have to call Rob and say, how you pronounce your name? So remember back some time ago when Joe Biden, who I hope runs for president so we can see a Biden-Trump debate. I would just love to see that. It could be a pay-per-view event. Just those two. Biden versus Trump. Oh, dear God. I would pay to see that debate on pay-per-view. All right, so Joe Biden was talking about energy when Sarah Palin was saying, drill, baby, drill. And Joe Biden said, that's just nonsense. It would take, you find a place to drill. It takes 10 years before you start seeing anything out of that. Why does Joe Biden think that? Well, because he works for government. And with government, to find a drill site, to make it produce, takes 10 years. Now, for those of you who are out there drilling for a living, when you've located a site, how long does it take to throw up the rig and get it working? Nowhere near 10 years, right? You guys can have that sucker operational in a couple of weeks. 10 years. But this is the way they think. Okay, here's the story from MontanaWatchdog.org. Quote, after 32 years, here's the headline. After 32 years, a 76-year-old energy executive is still waiting on the feds. When Sidney Longwell submitted an application for a permit to drill on federal land on northwest Montana in 1983, Ronald Reagan was in his first term of office. Michael Jackson's Billie Jean went to the top of the charts. John Elway was a rookie quarterback for the Denver Broncos. I knew everything in there until you got to Elway because I'm not a sports fan. I have no idea what the hell that is. All right. No, I'm sorry, I don't, but I knew the Billie Jean thing. 32 years later, Longwell, still 76 years old, living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and still waiting for that federal government permit, just wants them to make a decision. Longwell wants to explore for minerals on the 6,247 acres he acquired through a lease with the Bureau of Land Management all those many years ago. You know what this means? This means he has been paying on that lease ever since. For 32 years, he's been paying on that lease. I'd sue to get my money back. No, honestly, because they're supposed to have a time frame. The law is they're supposed to make a decision within a certain time frame. 32 years is obviously not within that time frame. So what should he do? Yeah, sue him. Quote, we have a valid permit with our client and the right to hold and drill, said Longwell, his attorney. What's the holdup? Quote, there have been other litigations. There have been needs for analysis. That has taken time. Yeah, 32 years. Public Affairs officer for the U.S. Forest Service in Great Falls, Montana said, but then admitted that's kind of long. They just want us to go away, said the old gentleman. I think the bureaucrats wanted to avoid making a decision, so they just fooled around and had meeting after meeting. Longwell and Penley aren't the only people frustrated by the drawn-out process. Quote, no combination of excuses could possibly justify this level of ineptitude for such an epic period of time. I like that, epic period of time. So they went to court. They're supposed to do this within 21 days, and even I think that's too long. I think 21 days is too long, but they're supposed to do it within 21 days. So the judge says, by any measure, it continues to be unreasonable. You think, Judge? So what's your decision? Longwell's lease in the Lewis and Clark National Forest. Oh, dear God. You know what this means? He has been after this. Just permission. Not even to extract, just to explore. He's been waiting for permission since Lewis and Clark. What do you mean that it's the Lewis and Clark fork of whatever? No, since Lewis and Clark saw him on the land, they passed by him on the way out west. All right, so there's also the Blackfeet Nation in that area. They have a dog in this fight, they say, and on this goes. And any excuse that they can find. The tribe got involved in this as well. And it just continues on. But I mainly blame the Bureau of Land Management because they had 21 days. They could have just went ahead and made a decision. But instead, I think he's right. They drag this out. They hope he just goes away. And I think, seriously, that I honestly think is what the Bureau of Land Management likes to do to you folks out there. Well, no, what I mean by that is the Bureau of Land Management, you get a lease from them, and they will push it as long as they can and run up the bill as much as they can in the hopes that in the long run, you just go away and you never go out and drill there. I bet you they're pretty disappointed every so often when they actually have to let you go out and drill.
Ebola virus.
What difference?
Jim Crow Day. Most radical. Time to try something new.
to News Busted. I'm Jody Miller. Let's get started. Planned Parenthood is under fire for selling aborted baby parts. Newly released videos show representatives literally willing to charge an arm and a leg for an arm and a leg. The Minnesota dentist who killed Cecil the lion has apologized, but he has a pretty lame excuse. He said he thought cats have 9 lives. Hillary Clinton's staff shut down a section of a New York department store last week so she could get a $600 haircut. Aides say Hillary needed to look her best for a speech on income inequality. Former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore announced he's running for the Republican nomination, which poses an immediate threat to Lindsey Graham's hold on last place. Chris Matthews stumped DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz when he asked her the difference between a Democrat and a socialist. Obviously, it was a trick question. Nowadays, there is no difference. On the Today Show, John Kerry said the Iran nuclear deal is not based on trust. Well, that's obvious. Only a fool would trust John Kerry. Radar Online is reporting that Khloe Kardashian wants to have a baby. She hasn't chosen a father for the child, but she has narrowed it down between the Lakers and the Clippers. And finally, former Rhode Island Governor Lincoln Chafee is running for the Democratic nomination, but his campaign isn't going well. Right now, he's polling 2 points behind the dentist who killed Cecil the lion. Thanks for watching News Busted, everybody. I'm Jody Miller. Be sure to subscribe to our videos on YouTube. We'll catch you next time.
Meantime, the House passes a 3-month extension on a highway funding bill, sending the House into recess a day early. On America's Matt Schuck has more from Washington.
The fight over highway funding has split the 2 chambers of Congress after the House has moved forward and passed a short-term resolution on highway funding. Senate and House leaders have been battling over rival highway bills, with the House not wanting to take up the Senate's bill because, as Congressman Ryan Zinke puts it, the bill just isn't right yet.
The House and the Senate need to get together and make sure we have a bill that is long-term, 5 years, or around there, but also is paid for. In my estimation, we should not pass a bill that is long-term but only pays for it in the first couple of years.
The House has canceled votes for Thursday, sending them into recess a day early and leaving the Senate less than a week to vote on the short-term extension. It's likely to pass so that members of Congress can engage in a more thorough discussion regarding our nation's infrastructure. Congressman Zinke echoes this notion.
Everyone understands how important this infrastructure bill is, that our bridges are deteriorating, highways, jobs, and how important a long-term stable income and revenue source is for the bill. But we have to make sure it's right. And 3 months, I think, to make sure we reconcile the 2 ideas, bring the right people together, and get a bill that we can all be proud of is incredibly important.
Congressman Zinke went on to say that while Congress is going on recess, it'll be a work recess, and plans to spend the majority of his time sitting in the chair and going through the bill. Matt Schuck, One America News, Washington.
Welcome to Socialist America. For your convenience, we would like to introduce you to the Affordable Care Act. This voluntary program is mandated by the federal government with a fine that is not a fine or a tax, though you'll have to pay it through the IRS if you disobey. Your cooperation, you will comply, is appreciated. To save the American family as much money as possible, the Affordable Health Care Act has caused the price of health insurance to skyrocket. In fact, healthcare has become so expensive that many companies have chosen to drop health care coverage for their employees. Those who do not have health insurance will be dealt with, fined by a mandated tax that is not a tax or a mandate. Your federal government looking out for you every day. As usual, employees of the state are exempt from mandatory citizen regulations. And as always, thank you for your cooperation.
No matter what you've heard, if you like your doctor or healthcare plan, you can keep it. If you don't have insurance, you'll finally be able to afford insurance. And everyone will have the security and stability that's missing today.
The Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius did acknowledge some people will see their health care costs go up.
I just see a huge train wreck coming down. You and I have discussed this many times, and I don't see any results.
I happen to be a proponent of a single-payer universal health care plan.
Never said that we should try to go ahead and get single-payer.
The president has directed us to take action to fight these cartels, and Attorney General Holder and I are taking several new and aggressive steps as part of the administration's comprehensive plan.
I'm not sure the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
I heard on the news about this story that Fast and Furious.
These protests, reaction to a video that many Muslims find offensive.
This video is disgusting and reprehensible.
I don't care how offensive this video was, and it was terribly offensive. And we should shun it.
What happened this week in Cairo, in Benghazi, and many other parts of the region was a result, a direct result of a heinous and offensive video.
I asked her why the ambassador had said there was a demonstration when the embassy had reported only an attack.
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
Oh, by the way, in case you didn't hear, Zimbabwe called. They would like us all just to shut the hell up about the lion already, for Pete's sakes. I agree with them. It's a Bold Republic radio show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. As always, pretty much everything that I talk about and a whole lot more, you'll find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. I'm going to do a little bit earlier than I usually do. Phone lines open now. You can call, change the subject, interrupt me if you have to. 307-363-4093 is the phone number. I am not going to spend a lot of time on this because I agree with Zimbabwe. You know, the lion doesn't just sleep tonight. The lion's taking the big dirt nap tonight, which the zebra coalition out there is all in favor of, by the way. Well, look, I am sure there's a lot of zebras and gazelles that had just about enough of this line. Cecil. You know, zebra lives matter. Yeah, Zimbabwe actually did say they would like us just to quit talking about this. And apparently they're more interested not so much in dealing with the dentist. I never thought they should deal with the dentist. He did everything that he was supposed to be doing, but instead with the poachers, if that's what they were, or the guides. Let's call them guides for now and give them the benefit of the doubt. The guides took the American dentist apparently outside of Park area, and he killed a lion under their direction. Okay, so if somebody was wrong here, don't blame the dentist. He's never been there before. He's doing what he was told to do. There, boom, done. Enough of that. Move on. Real topic now. Congressional study shows that, after all, no, mass shootings are not at epidemic level. What? According to a study, mass shootings are not at epidemic levels. Holy, because we were told that it was worse than ever before. Well, if you listen to shows like this, you know that they weren't worse than ever before. That it's actually, but we were told that this was worse than ever before. All right, let's go ahead and pick apart the study. See what it says here. Line 1, mass shootings, which means multiple homicidal incidents in which 4 or more victims are murdered with guns, not including the offender, within one event and all at once, and in one or more locations in a close geographic proximity. So in other words, some guy walks into a room and just shoots the place apart and kills at least 4 people. That's what we're talking about, right? Okay, so that's how they've defined it. All right, mass public shooting means a multiple of homicide incidents in which 4 or more victims are murdered with firearms, not including the offender, within one event, and at least some of the murders occurred on the public locations or locations close to geographic proximity, workplace, school, restaurant, other public settings. They're trying to define this accurately. And their murders are not attributed to any other underlying criminal activity, like, for example, robbery, something like that. So, in other words, as they tried to define what is a mass killing, as they tried to define it, what they're saying is, well, basically, it's when somebody walks into a room and just shoots the place apart because he's a nut job. That's what they're talking about. So for the first time period studied from 1999 to 2013, they found only a slight uptick in events during the last 5 years between 2009 and 2013, but credited the uptick in 2012, the year the Aurora Theater attack and Sandy Hook both happened at the same time. Then things leveled off, went back down. Reason magazine reported that the Northwest University's James Allen Fox commented on the study, saying the data shows a great validity in the numbers, but there's no solid trend. He has made for some time, he's a guy who just does statistics. And he said, what you're seeing here really is that there is an uptick in the way the media covers events like these. So when the media covers a shooting, you see how the media covers the shooting has upticked, and I could put it another way. Here's an analogy for you. Used to be when a tornado ripped across the Midwest somewhere, a tornado rips across the Midwest and devastates a small town. You would hear about it if you lived way back when. You would hear about it when? Well, probably about a month after it happened, you would see an article in a newspaper. And that's it. That's all you would hear about it. Unless some friends of yours were talking about it. Other than that, that's all you would hear about it. Now, today, when television came around, that brought up the amount of news coverage for some event like this, especially if they were able to get some video of the tornado or of the town and then talk about it. So that means they could talk about it for a longer period of time to sell airtime. What do we have today? Not just the internet, but 24-hour news television stations that need to fill 24 hours of airtime. So what do they do when a tornado hits an area? Well, they immediately send a live crew out there. In fact, they know the tornado is going to happen in many cases before some of the people in the town know that it's about to hit them because of all the Doppler radar equipment and so on. And so they get on the air and start talking about, which they should. It warns people. But then immediately they have crews there, and because between the Weather Channel, CNN, and Fox, and MSNBC, and any other channel that might be out there, local news channels as well, they have to fill their airtime. And so they talk and talk about it to the point that you think, oh, dear God, hurricane or tornadoes are devastating Central North America. So it gives you the idea that this stuff is on the uptick and happening worse than ever before. All right, now, if you go back and take a look at mass shootings, and they've been going on, it's not a recent thing. This is nothing new. I don't care how old you are. Before you were born, things like Sandy Hook, the shooting at that school, things like that were happening. This is nothing new. other than it happens less frequently, not more. It actually happens less frequently, not more. Did you think it was happening more? Go look at the numbers. There's several stories like the one I was just looking at here, which only took a look at from 2009 until 2013. But there's studies that go back much further than that. And actually, mass shootings used to be a lot more frequent. But why didn't America really hear about it? Well, where did you get your news from? You were fortunate if you lived in a place like New York City that had a daily newspaper, or even for that matter, a newspaper that came out twice a day. And then television came along, of course. And then here comes the 24-hour news station. And they have 24 hours worth of news to fill up. So when a shooting like Sandy Hook happens, like the Aurora, Colorado shooting, now they cover it wall to wall for as long as they can possibly milk the ratings. And so what's the impression that you get? That this is unusual, that this has never happened before, that it doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. It only happens here in America, and it's happening more frequently than ever before. That's the impression that you get. You get the impression that the weather is worse than ever before, and it's not. Nothing unusual is happening with the weather. You get the impression that there's more mass shootings than ever before, and there's not. There's less. So what I'm saying is it's easy to get sucked into the 24-hour news cycle and get all hyperactive and bothered. Here's the real problem for us with that. So when something does happen that really is important, that we should be paying attention to, if the media bothers to cover it instead of burying it, are you going to pay attention to it? Well, they've been crying wolf for so long that when something really does happen, are you going to be paying attention to it? There's the problem that we find. Different for me than you guys only because I spend my day in the news cycle. I spend my day going through all the news. You, on the other hand, let me give you an idea for radio listeners out there. Well, for TV listeners too. Give you an idea of what the top 40 format is, because this is how they do news. Do you ever listen to a radio station for a long period of time and wonder why are they playing the same songs over and over and over again? That was the top 40 format, which is very successful. And what they figured out was the average person gets in their car and drives across town, and they're only in their car for this long. There's an average length of time. It's usually around like 10 to 15 minutes that you're in your vehicle. So what if every time you got in your vehicle, your favorite song was playing? From a recent hit to something that they could pick up that you haven't heard in a while. Okay, so they had the hot top 40 rotation. So there were very few songs at the top of the chart that rotated quickly and played over and over and over. And the further down the chart the song was, the popularity chart, Billboard magazine, the slower the rotation of the song. That way, they had you as a listener in the top 40 music format. Whenever you got into your vehicle, your favorite song was on the air. And they had your attention. So that works for the average person who's only in their car 10 to 15 minutes at a time. But for the person who's listening to the radio all day long, it'll drive you insane. Well, part of the reason that you think that it's worse than ever before is because that top 40 music format is the same format that news organizations use. Because they realize for television and radio news consumers, you really only listen for a short period of time here and there. Most of you are in your vehicle for a short while, the radio's on, then you get out and it's over. For the rest of you, though, who listen to the news cycle all day, whether on television or radio, it'll drive you crazy after a while because of their hot hit rotation. It's all designed to keep your attention. And when you find out what reality is, the weather is not worse than ever before. There are not more murders than ever before. In fact, things both weather-wise and killing-wise are a lot quieter than they've ever been. And you realize your perception of the world is not the perception that they were feeding you all this time.
Bold Republic.
There are veterans across America having trouble finding work due to mental and physical injuries they received while serving their country. HCCI Transportation is a startup company designed and dedicated to help these hard-working veterans earn the paycheck they need to support themselves and their families. HCCI Transportation Company will be launching very soon, hiring only veterans. HCCI Transportation will be a company set up simply to give back to our nation's heroes and quality of life they need and deserve. Once the company is on the road, we can start providing our veterans with the income, work environment, and quality of life they need and deserve. Veterans are the only people who sacrifice in defense of our great nation, and we owe them much more for our freedom. What they need most is steady, good employment, and you can contribute. Find out how you can help this company launch by calling Shane Annerman, 760-608-7313. That number is 760-608-7313.
You could either spend $100 getting your phone fixed, or you could go ahead and spend $400 to replace it. At Selectel Wireless in Gillette, we fix phones. Most generally, what breaks is the digitizer or the LCD. This is from being dropped, being smashed, thrown against the wall. No, seriously, 9 times out of 10, people throw their phones. Well, we can fix that too. Save money, fix it, don't replace it. Come see us at Selectel Wireless, next to Office Depot in Gillette, Wyoming. But if you do need a new phone, we have those too.
So over in that corner, we have 3 guys talking about Bigfoot. Over there, they're talking about the game that's on the TV above their heads. That table, I've lost track of what they were talking about a long time ago, but the conversation keeps getting louder. Then someone puts their favorite song in the jukebox, and here comes that guy who thinks he can dance, but he can't dance, but he thinks he can. Nobody really cares that he can. In a moment, I'm going to walk over to their giant humidor and pick out a nice stogie. They have great cigars in a huge humidor. Pat's Liquor, where if you haven't made friends, then you haven't been there more than 2 minutes. Give it another minute and make some friends at Pat's Liquor, 600 South Douglas Highway, Gillette, Wyoming, right next to Wells Fargo Bank. Happy hour, 4:30 till 7. This is Glenn Woods with the Bold Republic Radio Show. Do you agree with our message of limited government and personal freedom? If so, we were wondering if you could partner with us to help spread the message nationwide. We have an opportunity to bring this show coast to coast, but we just need the startup costs. There are rewards for helping us out. Go to boldrepublic.com, click on the satellite, and help us spread the message of liberty and how to achieve it coast to coast.
Remember that one time when the president made that one good decision about that one thing and everyone in Congress cast their well-informed vote in agreement and the nation was better for it? Remember? I'm sure it must have happened once. Anyway, let's get back to the show. Here's Glenn Woods.
Pardon me, I'm just looking up a news story because it makes perfect sense to me that exactly what I was talking about a minute ago was happening while I was talking about it. So wouldn't you know it? All right, I was just now reading the story saying that Congress did a study about mass shootings and found out that from 2009 to 2013, there really wasn't any. There was a little bit of an uptick only because several happened at one time. But when you average it all out, we don't have more mass shootings than ever before. And I also pointed out that when you go back in time, I mean, let's just start with like the year 1900 to today. Mass shootings are actually down, not up. While I was talking about this, get a load of this. Headline, gunman who opened fire at a Tennessee movie theater was killed by police. And this just happened. Developing, a gunman who opened fire at a movie theater in suburban Nashville, Tennessee, killed in a shootout with police. There is no immediate information on any possible injuries to the theater patrons who are attending the showing of Mad Max, by the way. Oh, and by the way, I'm glad that a police officer was there, but what stopped the bad man with a gun? Once again, in this case, what stopped a bad man with a gun? A good guy with a gun. I bet you some of those theater patrons wish that they had been able to return fire immediately. All right, but let's continue with the story because we don't have a whole lot of details right now. The police department spokesman said the shooter was armed with a gun and a hatchet. Now, what do you think is going to get more attention here, the gun or the hatchet? Yeah, of course. Well, no, they're going to discount the hatchet. They're going to talk about the gun. What if he had been only armed with a hatchet? Well, because those kinds of killings don't get as much attention as a killing with a gun. So, okay, said armed with a gun and a hatchet. While police arrived on the scene, the gunman fired at an officer who then returned fire. SWAT team also on the scene fired at him as well. The man also reportedly left 2 backpacks that are being examined for a hazardous device by the officers. Metro Police Dispatch told the Tennessee newspapers the shooting was reported at 1:13 p.m. at a cinema in Tennessee. And let's see, Nashville police confirmed in a tweet, which is how news is really disseminated today. They said in a tweet the shooting was reported about 1:30 at the movie theater, and they had an active shooter at the time, and the suspect was dead. Interesting to see that your local police department says, yep, there was an active shooter, killed him, and they tweet that. Before the news organizations can get the word out there, the police department just have a direct line to you. Give me a moment. I'll tell you how it used to be done. Last line of the story, the latest shooting comes about 2 weeks after the gunman made inside a movie theater in Lafayette, Louisiana. This is all we know at this time. And I don't know anything. I don't know a thing about if anybody was injured or not. But again, who stopped the bad man with a gun? A good man with a gun. And so if you're in a movie theater and somebody starts shooting, I bet you're going to wish that you can do a lot more than just duck under the seat and hope he doesn't notice you. Would be nice if you could shoot back anyway. Okay, here's how news used to be, if you're curious about this. Way back when. When a shooting like this happened, it took longer for the word to get out because people that ran the movie theater would have to pick up the phone and call the police. Nobody, this is before the days of cell phone. Who had a telephone other than the people that owned the movie theater? Now, working in the media as I did, as soon as the police department knew, they had an automatic call set up ready to go. So our phones in the media, radio, TV, would start to ring. And it basically was they would record a message and tell their machine, call all of these numbers at once. And so whether I was at a TV station or a radio station, the phones would just start ringing and somebody at the news desk would pick it up. And here's a recording from the police department. And then we would get on the air and immediately spread the word out there. Today, though, it's one of the things I love about modern day technology. Today, though, don't need to do that anymore. I mean, quite literally, the police, all they have to do is just grab a phone, which they all are carrying around, and send a tweet out. And everybody in town that's following hashtag whatever or at whatever police department now knows instantly. Then the media starts to show up. Boy, the way we're getting information these days, wow. Well, okay, as soon as I know, if we do know of any kind of motive for this guy and if anyone was actually hurt in this, I will let you know. Just keep this in mind, though. Once again, a bad man with a gun was stopped by a good man with a gun. Thank God that police officer was there. Have you been alone too long?
No, not really. I'm fine.
Well, thanks to G-Harmony, you won't have to be alone anymore.
No, I said, look, I'm really fine. I'm dating someone right now, and...
Yes, your federal government has taken over the online dating industry.
Oh, Lord, no. Please don't do this.
Yes, to make sure that you're seeing enough people, the right kind of people, and to make sure there is no race or gender bias in your dating life.
Look, I really don't like where this is going.
The government has spent over $800 million on a website that you're required to sign up for.
You know, I think your website just crashed.
Yes, for a low monthly fee.
It's like 10 times more than I paid for a private dating site.
Which you're required to pay for.
But I don't want...
I said you're required by law.
For the love of...
Just fill out the overly personal information, including the past 10 years of your IRS tax form and access to all texting and email accounts. It should only take a couple of days. Then we set you up with G-Harmony and who you are going to be dating. Then your personal life will be audited.
I don't get a choice? Oh, right. Government. What was I thinking?
Look, G-Harmony has already found a few candidates.
What's with the dude? I'm straight. I don't date dudes.
You'll be required to spend time with people from background, genders, and gender preferences in order to meet government quotas.
Okay, you know what? Hold on. I'm just gonna go ahead and call my girlfriend now and ask her to marry me before I have to sign up for this crap.
Gharmony.com. Because government thinks that you're lonely, no matter if you are or not. And we plan to do something about it, whether you like it or not. Look, it's either sign up for G-Harmony or go to prison, where you'll end up dating dudes anyway. I don't understand the Supreme Court Obamacare decision.
Well, it's simple. The individual mandate was struck down. You cannot be fined for not having health insurance. It is unconstitutional.
Oh, well, that's a relief.
But you can be taxed.
But wait, isn't that the same as a fine?
No, it's not a mandate. It's a tax.
So I don't have to pay the tax.
If you don't pay the tax, you are fined.
But isn't that a mandate?
No, it's a tax.
Wait, so a mandated fine is unconstitutional?
Yes.
But I have to pay the tax or I'm fined.
Right.
But doesn't that make the tax a mandate?
No, it's a tax, not a mandate.
Who thought of this?
No, who voted against it?
Who?
Exactly.
Wait, what's the name of the guy who thought of this?
No, he voted against it too.
Hold on.
No, hold on is on third base.
What?
He voted against it.
Who did?
Exactly.
I just want to know the name of the guy who thought up this lame idea of calling an unconstitutional mandate a tax as if there's any difference.
It's not a mandate, it's a tax.
Well, what if I decide not to pay it?
Then you're fine. It's mandated.
Yeah, the tax is not a mandate.
No, it's not.
Oh, for the love of the Messiah.
No, he's in the White House.
The Bold Republic radio show is for free-thinking, liberty-minded people. Trigger warnings possible. Don't listen to this program if you're satisfied with being part of the herd.
Are you a bureaucrat? We would like to invite you to register for the Hometown International Bureaucratic Information and Justification Institute for the Bureau of Internal Symposium, or HEBGBs for short. HEBGBs invites you to this 1 or 3-day symposium, depending if our 3-day internal certification is renewed. We will have an exciting lineup planned. Health and Human Services Director Kathleen Sebelius, former IRS Manager Lois Lerner, and former head of the EPA Lisa Jackson. Registration is easy-ish. Just go to Hometown International Bureaucratic Information and Justification Institute for the Bureau of Internal Symposiums .com and click register now. No, not now, but when you get there, click the word now, but not yet. You'll be directed to a site requesting you to fill out a small 12-page application.
This application gives you the heebie-jeebies information and authorizes you to print off a short 37-page registration form. After your registration form is complete, please go back to the heebie-jeebies website and follow the same steps 2 more times. Since registration in triplicate is required and copies will not be accepted, please fill out 1 with the number 2 pen, 2 with a ballpoint pen, and 3 with a crayon. Snail mail your application and registration along with your non-refundable check and money order, each made out for $250 to heebie-jeebies. Credit cards are accepted, but please allow for additional 10 to 12 weeks for processing.
You will then be promptly notified within 8 to 10 months if your non-refundable registration has been accepted. Don't delay. Get the heebie-jeebies today.
It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. As always, pretty much everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more. You can find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. So, okay, there's an article by the Reason Foundation, which, by the way, if you want to see, and I am going to do this for you guys, I'm going to have a page up where you can go and take a look at organizations that need help. And organizations that can also provide you good, real, honest information, opinion, things like that. But there's a lot of organizations out there that are trying to fight the good fight. And if you want to know what you can do, because everybody keeps asking me, when is somebody going to get out there and save the country? Well, you can do your part. And I'm going to have a list for you of organizations that are looking for help. Some will want financial help. Some will just want a little bit of your time, something that you can do. It's like I was saying yesterday, even during World War II, there were people out there who all they did was load crates. They made sure equipment got from point A to point B. That's it. Bureaucrats who just, people who sat down and filled out the forms to make sure that something got where it was supposed to be. That's actually important work. Somebody has to do it. So no, they weren't the big, brave fighter pilot out there. So if you want to do something, I'll have a page for you where you can get involved in the action in the next couple of days. Reason Foundation is one of those news sources out there that you ought to take a look at. Just go to reason.com. Now, headline. Free speech from Reason. Free speech is not about being sensitive, says Chapman University president. Oh, dear God, it's about time to hear someone from a university say that. Subtitle is, he speaks out on campus free speech issues and the values of a liberal arts degree. Story reads, comedians such as Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, aren't the only people who feel a college campi they've grown intolerant to free speech. He's the president, Jim Dotty's the president of the campus or the Campaign University, which shares concerns and says they're getting worse off than they were 10, 20 years ago. Well, and think about it. When Jerry Seinfeld was and Chris Rock set up and said, we used to do tours of one university after the next. It was some of the best comedy venues out there. You want to make a lot of money and have a great audience? Well, geez, you just go to a university and wow. They won't do that anymore, though, because political correctness. They're not allowed to say things that they used to be free to say. I remember the last time I talked about this with you guys. I brought up comedians like Lenny Bruce, for example, and some other greats. Yes, they were edgy, they were dirty, but the point that they were making was we're supposed to be free people. If I want to say it and other people want to hear me say it, then we have the right to get together and do that. It's called a free country. And yet everything's gone full circle because it used to be the conservative movement out there that didn't want comedians like Lenny Bruce or Chris Rock, for that matter. But now it's just the opposite. It's the liberals that don't because it's not politically correct. Everybody's gone full circle here. The liberals have become everything they used to fight against. Quote, people increasingly feel that they are victims of some kind of social stigmatization. And as a result, you have to be very, very sensitive, he says this university professor. He said, free speech is not about being sensitive. God, did he have that right? I've been telling you guys this for the longest time. Not like I need to tell this crowd, because you guys know this. You want to live in a free country? No, I mean, really. No, seriously, think about that for a minute. Do you really want to live in a free country? Okay. That means people are going to say and do things that are offensive to you. Now, personally, when I hear somebody say or do something offensive, I might be offended by it, but I'm also happy to know that I live in a place where somebody can do that. They're not going to be thrown in jail or run off campus just because they spoke their mind. See, that's what freedom is.
Glenn Woods, BoldRepublic.com.
Please join us Saturday, August 1st at 2 p.m. for the tribute to the Upton and Wright, Wyoming fallen heroes. First Lieutenant Stephen Bowl, Vietnam, Staff Sergeant Ryan Zorn, Iraq. The tribute to the fallen soldiers memorial torch ride will arrive in Upton by...
Hey man, what's up? Nice weather, that's what. It's finally warm enough to light up the grill. Hey, I'm on my way. Hey, do you need anything? They're $2 a piece. We also need some Pillsbury Grand biscuits. They're 3 for $5. And some Nabisco Chips Ahoy cookies. They're 2 for $5. We could also use some Navel oranges. $1.19 a pound. Oh, and some California seedless grapes. $1.99 a pound. I also need some Top Care mouthwash. $2.49 a piece. They're all on sale until Tuesday.
Really? You want some matches to light that grill too?
No, I have a match. Well, just one. So you might need to pick some of those up too. It's a good thing you're going to Don's because, they have everything. Hello? Hello? Don Supermarket in Gillette, 1501 West 2nd Street.
Daydreaming, son. It's time to get prepared. Time to get off your sofa and run yourself down. Surplus Unlimited in the Gun Traders building. Oh, my. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Civilian soldier, they got everything you could need. That's right, the surplus is unlimited. Surplus Unlimited ammo for babies and adults.
That's right, babies need camos too.
10 different styles of camo.
Oh, don't you look pretty.
550 cord, numerous colors, wool blankets, boots, hats, gloves, coats, shirts, tactical vests and belts, camping supplies, high quality army cots, and that hard to find P38 can opener. Save time, save money. Surplus Unlimited in the Gun Traders building. 801 Carlisle on the Douglas Highway across from the fishing lake. Gillette, Wyoming.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline McKinney, owner of Fast and Furious Detailing. Do you need your RV or toy hauler cleaned? We will get it ready for you, so all you have to do is go have some fun. Or how about after fun, we can clean it up. We will even wash all of your bedding for you. Does your boat have dark film all around the outside of it? No problem. Fast and Furious Detailing is a full-service detailing company. We detail cars, SUVs, trucks, RVs, toy haulers, boats, ATVs, UTVs, and motorcycles. Fast and Furious Detailing hopes you can find everything you need. Our company is focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. With a variety of offerings to choose from, we're sure you'll be happy working with us. We're located at 5753 South Winland Drive, and our phone number is 307-682-2470.
Pool leagues, dart leagues. Saturday night is ladies' night. Poker every Wednesday night. Domestic beers and draft on sale. And special daily dollar shop. We even have a packaged liquor drive-thru and many other things for you. It's Lakeside Liquor. Open Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. till 2 a.m. Sunday, 11 till 11. Because you need to relax after where you've been. Work is hard for the ladies and gents. Come to Lakeside Liquor. Relax and vent. Lakeside Liquor is across from Wyoming Work Warehouse in Gillette.
All right, I think I got this. He makes it his business to know the government's business and how they're all up in your business so you can go about your business. Where was I going with this? Kind of lost track. Anywho, Glenn is back on the air now. Yep, there he is.
So remember those police officers? You're going to love this one. You probably heard the story. There were some police officers that raided a shop, and the shop had a lot of marijuana paraphernalia, and so this was in California. And they went around turning off the cameras. Why would they turn off the cameras? And a lot of the things they started doing in there was illegal. Apparently, there was a hidden camera they didn't know about. Did you hear about this story? And they were even munching on some pot brownies. Here, I'll jog your memory with this one. Story in front of me reads, Santa Ana, California cops were caught on video munching on what seemed to be cannabis-infused chocolate bars after raiding an unlicensed medical marijuana dispensary in May. Remember that one? Orange County Register reports the 3 officers who were suspended after the incident are trying to stop the Santa Ana Police Department from using the video for its internal investigation. Well, of course they. Well, look, you see the video, it's over, right? So what excuse could they possibly come up with? Now, I'll wait a second. Let your imagination run wild for just a moment. They were seen, because I remember watching the video, they were seen going around pulling the cords on cameras so they wouldn't be videoed. They missed a hidden camera. Then they started pulling up some of the marijuana-infused goodies like chocolate bars and eating them. They were supposed to be busting the place. So now that the video is available, they have to make sure it is not seen by the judge and the jury. If you were one of these police officers, what excuse would you use? All right, here we go. The lawsuit argues that the officers thought they had disabled all the security cameras at the Sky High Holistic and therefore reasonably expected privacy. The cops complained that the dispensary never got permission to record them on the premises. Oh, so since the police officers illegally went around and unplugged all of the cameras that they saw, they figured after that they had a reasonable expectation of privacy. This is good. I'd like to know who their attorney is on this one. This is really good stuff. Okay, let me. I know I don't need to make an analogy for this, but just for the fun of it, okay? So you own a home where you've just purchased a security system. All right. And we're going to say it's a good one. I mean, it actually attaches to some place that would call the police, fire department, whatever. It's got cameras. It records things. It's a really good security system, right? Okay. One day, a burglar shows up, and he's a clever guy. And so he starts to dismantle your security system. He shuts off the alarm and gets around it. He shuts off the video cameras and gets around it. He sneaks into your house and robs you. But he missed one hidden camera. And his argument before the judge is, well, after I went and disabled their security system, and especially their cameras, I had a reasonable expectation of privacy. That's essentially what they're arguing here. Okay. I don't think they're going to get away with this, but isn't that rich? Now, by the way, these are cops. They're supposed to be the good guys. I mean, there should be hell to pay if they're allowed to keep their jobs at all. Quote, all police personnel present had a reasonable expectation that their conversations were no longer being recorded, and the undercover officers, feeling that they were safe to do so, removed their masks. Says the complaint, which was filed by the Orange County Superior Court with the illegal recordings. This is a quote. Without the illegal recordings, there would have been no internal investigation by any officer. All parties had a confidential communication. They were entitled to it. They must consent to being recorded. But the rule does not apply when the parties to the communication may reasonably expect the communication may be overheard or recorded. I think they forgot that. In an interview with Register Sky High lawyer, the guy's name is Matthew Pappas. What a perfect name for a lawyer for a drug place. But okay. Noted that the police routinely use surveillance cameras, videos against suspects. He says it's pretty pathetic for the police to say if we don't like something that it can't be used as evidence. So just because they can say, hey, we had a reasonable expectation of privacy, you weren't allowed to record us, doesn't mean that it tosses the evidence out as well. But see, what I think is, as funny as that is, what I think is even more important here, we have police officers who are supposed to be the good guys. It's just as simple as that. They're supposed to be the good guys. And not only did they act like the bad guys at the time, but they continue to act like the bad guys. They continue to act like the people that they're supposed to be putting behind bars.
around playing Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto all day? Ever want to do it for real? Well, come join us. We are ISIS. We will actually pay you to play. Why pretend to rape and torture and kill from your living room sofa? Come join the caliphate where you can do it for real. Think of the perks. Multiple submissive wives and goats. And for the lady gamers out there, we need submissive wives. So come join today. Find out what it's like to sleep in the desert, get bombed and strafed by Jordanian air fighters and American Apache helicopters. Or maybe even a drone gets you in its sights. But this game is not for any ordinary gamer. Here, there is no reset button. You die, game over. We promise you great rewards in the afterlife, like 72 submissive virgin wives and goats. So apply today. It's easy, because we will take anyone who has no regard for human dignity or life. Is that you? If so, come die with us. We are ISIS.
Dedicated, reliable-ish, hardworking from 10 to 3 Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They are the American bureaucrat, because the engine that was America's progress and success was running a little too fast and efficient. Who knows where all of this innovation and success was going? So for the good of the nation, somebody needed to slow it down. It took a lot of paper to jam up those gears of progress, but no one knows paper like the bureaucrat. And America was too rich compared to the rest of the world. Can't have that. No one knows how to make your money disappear like the proud men and women of the American bureaucracy. So, America, take all your great ideas and big dreams and flush them. And if you find your dreams coming true, don't worry. The American bureaucracy has a ton of paperwork and a line for you to stand in. Bureaucracy, slowing progress and freedom for a more humble America.
Sorting through the nonsensical nonsense that makes your life a living hell. It's Glenn Woods. OldRepublic.com.
It's the Bold Republic Radio Show, Wednesday edition. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. As always, pretty much everything I talk about, a whole lot more, you find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. So, according to the next story I have lined up for you here, the regulations that the president, this administration is putting us under right now, killing small business across America. But here's the headline. The regulation president puts on a show as small business out there is dying. For those who missed the program yesterday, went into a little bit of a bit about the idea of experimental businesses. I won't do the whole thing again this time. It's on yesterday's show, second hour. But just imagine you can build an experimental airplane, and all the FAA wants to do is just inspect the plane to make sure that it'll actually fly and not break apart due to stress, and that's it. Then they slap a sticker on there that says experimental airplane, and it doesn't have to comply with any rules or regulations from the federal government. Well, what if we could just do that with businesses? Just declare your business an experimental business. Now you can do whatever you want to do. And your customers can choose to do business with you because you're an experimental business, or your customers can choose to do business with people who comply with all government rules and regulations. There, we're being treated like adults again. From watchdog.org, M.D. Kittle is the author. M.D. Kittle, K-I-T-D-L-E. Wow, I kind of like the name. I think of Kittle, Kibbles and Bits, not Kittle, but okay. Despite his check, the story reads, on record business growth, which there hasn't been, President Barack Obama put plans for the first ever White House Demo Day, celebrating the important role of entrepreneurship that America plays in the economy. I think he means licensed entrepreneurship, but okay. On Tuesday, innovators from around the country will demo their individual stories. Quote, the Demo Day event will showcase why we need to give more entrepreneurs from all walks of life a chance to turn their ideas into indispensable products and services that will include new amounts of support for inclusive entrepreneurships around the states. I got a great idea. That's the president talking. I have a great idea, Mr. President. You want to do that? No, listen to what he's saying there. He thinks that we should allow people with new ideas for products and services to just explore those ideas. Do you really think that, Mr. President? Because I've got a great idea. Would somebody out there please show up at that Entrepreneur Day, and you will be a healthcare insurance company. And your idea is to provide a la carte healthcare insurance that is non-Obamacare compliant, so people can only purchase what they want to purchase. And by the way, they're allowed to purchase across state lines or from even out of the country if they choose to. Let somebody show up with that as an idea and see if the president is really in favor of the idea. Let people show up with the idea, I'm a hairdresser. I'm going to try a new idea. I'm going to be an unlicensed hairdresser. Because by doing so, my customers can decide whether they're going to do business with me or not, whether they want to take the risk or not, and I can actually save a lot of money by getting around government rules and regulations. How about that? When the president talks about innovative ideas, does he necessarily mean the idea has to be licensed and approved by the government? Is that what he says? Or can somebody show up with an idea that the president would completely disagree with and think that should be, what is innovation after all? You can't be innovative if you have some regulator looking over your shoulder. Now, I completely understand and agree with the idea of, well, we got to make sure it's safe. Like the airplane analogy that I just gave you, I have no problem with the FAA showing up and taking a look at an experimental airplane just to make sure that the airplane actually is airworthy, can actually pull maneuvers, basic maneuvers, and when it lands on the ground, it passes a stress test. I think that makes complete sense. I would expect that of a vehicle on the road. You truck drivers would agree with me. And I would expect that of an airplane in the air. But the idea of just then stepping back and saying, okay, just go ahead and innovate and do whatever you want to do. Create, innovate, think outside the box. Here's an idea, Mr. President, because it's being fought all over the country. What about companies like Uber? Well, Uber is a great idea. Do you have a car? Okay. Do you have some extra time on your hands? You want to make some extra money? All right. Well, there's people who need a ride cross town. Wouldn't it be great to have an app that connected you with them and you can charge them a few bucks for a ride across town? Now you can make a little extra money when you have the free time. See, that's all Uber really is. So, Mr. President, if somebody comes along with a great innovative idea like that, are you in favor of getting out of the way? See, I don't think this president is. When you take a look at, during the course of his administration, the amount of regulation that has been dumped on the American people, when you take a look at the stacks of regulations, and it's getting worse than ever before, and then he turns and says, yep, we're going to have an innovation day. Makes me kind of wonder. I know I'm being cynical, but it makes me wonder, is he really having an innovation day, or is he just having a day to catch people innovating? I kind of suspect the second, the latter.
I never never asked the unions to represent me. They are the ones who requested laws to give them the right to bargain on behalf of everyone.
Can a union not only force people to be members, but also spend their money on issue ads with which they disagree? The United States Supreme Court is going to take up that issue in its next term in Friedrichs versus the California Teachers Association. Rebecca Friedrichs is the lead plaintiff in that suit, and she joins Reason TV now. Rebecca, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Can you describe the frustrations that bubbled forth into this lawsuit?
Sure. So my frustrations began before I was even a full-time teacher. I was a student teacher, and I was learning from an outstanding master teacher. But next door to us was a teacher who was, in my view, quite abusive with her students. She would grab them, sort of yank them over in line, yell at them. They were 6 years old, first graders. And so she just had this angry look on her face all the time. And these kids were terrified. I was 22 and I was terrified. So I asked my master teacher, what can we do about this? We need to let the school know that this is going on. And she sat me down and she said, Rebecca, today's the day you need to learn about teachers unions and teacher tenure.
Oh boy.
So she said, you know, the district tries very hard to rid itself of these sorts of teachers who have become ineffective in the classroom, in this case abusive. But because of teacher tenure laws, they have a very difficult time ridding themselves of these teachers. So that day, I decided I don't want to be part of anything that would bring harm to children in that way.
But do you have a choice of being part of that organization in California public school system?
Well, I have absolutely no choice. And it's very confusing because people are told that teachers can opt out. Well, we can opt out of a small portion of the dues, the overt political portion of the dues, which is about 35% of our $1,000 a year. The trouble is that means we are no longer union members. So yes, I can opt out of membership, but I can't opt out of fees. So I pay what's called agency fees, which amount to about $650 a year in my district for a full-time teacher.
And so what is the specific, this is a First Amendment challenge. What is the specific First Amendment claim here?
So we are arguing based on our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and freedom of association. So all we're asking for, it's very simple. We're asking for teachers to be able to decide for ourselves without fear and without coercion, whether or not to join or fund a union. It's that simple, something that the Supreme Court has allowed to most Americans, and they made this exception in the laws to create something called labor peace for the labor unions and for the government employee sector, but it's not very peaceful for those of us who are forced to fund it. So we're just arguing that it's time for individual rights to be placed above the rights of these powerful unions.
A lot of people are very upset about this lawsuit. They think you're going to defang all public sector unions in this country. What do you say to the people who, first, are scared about that, but second, say, hey, look, you're getting the benefits of the collective bargaining. Why shouldn't you pay for it?
Unions won't be destroyed. We think that should we win, unions could actually improve because they would be forced now to show their membership what they can do for the membership. In other words, they'd have to start serving those who are paying the bill. I never asked the unions to represent me. They are the ones who requested laws to give them the right to bargain on behalf of everyone. So I didn't ask for that, would be my first answer. My second answer would be they continue to tell the American people that they are offering teachers and other public sector employees these great benefits, that we should pay for these great benefits. Well, it is my opinion and the opinion of many others that their supposed benefits are not worth the moral costs. Let me give you a couple examples. When my union goes to the legislature and they bargain for these Cadillac pension plans on my behalf at the expense of our national economy, at the expense of my community, I have a moral dilemma with that. I have a big problem with that. Now let's take it another step. They go, and the union goes and they bargain for teacher tenure laws. And now they're protecting teachers who are no longer effective in the classroom, who maybe are abusive, like that teacher I witnessed, at the expense of vulnerable children who are supposed to be educated. That is a gigantic moral dilemma for me. So I say it's time to set aside this union name calling and all this fear mongering, and let's put America and her children first, and let's put the rights of individuals above the rights of these powerful unions.
No matter what you've heard, if you like your doctor or healthcare plan, you can keep it. If you don't have insurance, you'll finally be able to afford insurance. And everyone will have the security and stability that's missing today.
Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius did acknowledge some people will see their health care costs go up.
I just see a huge train wreck coming down. You and I have discussed this many times, and I don't see any results.
I happen to be a proponent of a single-payer universal health care plan.
Never said that we should try to go ahead and get single payer.
The president has directed us to take action to fight these cartels, and Attorney General Holder and I are taking several new and aggressive steps as part of the administration's comprehensive plan.
I'm not sure the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
I heard on the news about this story that Fast and Furious.
These protests, reaction to a video that many Muslims find offensive.
This video is disgusting and reprehensible.
I don't care how offensive this video was, and it was terribly offensive. And we should shun it.
What happened this week in Cairo, in Benghazi, and many other parts of the region was a result, a direct result of a heinous and offensive video.
I asked her why the ambassador had said there was a demonstration when the embassy had reported only an attack.
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
See, it's something I've been saying for a long time now, and I love it when I'm vindicated. Well, I'm not supposed to be right. There's a lot of people who tell me I'm not supposed to be. I was right about something. Problem is, I'm the only one here. Now, I tell you what I mean by that. When I'm right about something, usually there's a woman around like DJ that I can call into the room, and she has to stand behind me and go, "You're right." And what she hates doing, and other women yell at her because she's not supposed to be doing that. Now and then I say something, and I'm right about it, and I have proof. Here's what I'm right about. It's a great idea now and then, even on a large scale. When you're trying to convince somebody of something and they just can't be convinced, then just step back and say, you know something, why don't you just go right ahead? Go on. You've presented all of the evidence. You've nailed it. You won the argument. But they just refuse to allow that information into their brain. Step back and let them do whatever they want to do. And when it falls apart, the funny part for me is it falls apart and they still won't blame themselves and their idea. Kind of like, to give you a side example here, because I'm not going to go after communism on this one, but give you a side example on communism. Well, a communist to this day will never admit to the failures of communism. I've actually heard communists say, well, we just didn't do it right. We just got to get the right people in there, because every single communist country ended up how? Okay. Between the mass graves and the torture chambers and the failed economy, and every single communist country has turned out how? And that they still think it's going to turn out different somehow. What's to me interesting to watch, which is why I call it a mental disorder, is to turn to other people and say, did you see? Because you'll never convince them. You'll never convince the true hardcore communists that what they're doing doesn't work. That's why I call it a mental disorder. But you can use that. You can turn to everybody else and say, do you see? Okay. I mean, I've used every example, but now we saw it play out in real life. So let's go now to Vermont. Vermont is a very left-leaning, they even tried single-payer health care in Vermont. You know what they found out? And they got really mad when the governor who was in favor of it, who signed the bill, ended up saying we can't do it. You know why? Because it's not affordable. You can't. Single-payer health care financially will ruin any state or country that tries it, and has. And that includes every country in Europe and Canada. You want to ruin the economy? Do a single-payer healthcare system. Want to put the nation into massive debt? Do a single-payer healthcare system. Vermont wasn't going to get their single-payer unless the federal government was going to fund it, which means all of the states, all 50 states, I'm sorry, Mr. President, all 57 states were going to have to fund Vermont. All right, well, Vermont had a new idea. They want 90% of their energy, eventually 100%, to be what they call renewable. In other words, wind turbines, solar panels. They were finally able to get legislation through that said, well, okay, 75% for now. And we'll eventually get to 90% and then 100%. Now, people like you and I talk to folks like this till I'm blue in the face. Look at the numbers. Look at the results from Europe. Look at what's happening here. By the way, your renewable energy is not good for the environment. And I cite all the different ways that wind turbines and solar panels destroy the environment. Rare earth mineral mining, things like that. They don't want to hear all the birds killed by wind turbines. They don't want to hear it. They live in denial. They turn it off. La, 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 la is what they do. Hands over the ears. La, 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 la. That's what they do. So, okay, they passed this legislation in Vermont. But now 75% is supposed to be turbines and solar panels by a certain date. But now they have a problem. So is the problem from outside? No, it's from within. Other environmentalists that live in the state started to take a serious look at how this was going to get done. Now, if you haven't been to Vermont, it's been a while since I've been through the New England states. Vermont is small but amazingly beautiful. I mean, just one of the most beautiful states you'll ever visit. Stunning. And have a lot of trees there. Let me pause for just a minute. Back in the New England states, back turn of the century, it was 75% deforested. Why? Not just Vermont, but the New England states were 75% deforested. And why? Well, they had to clear land for farm. They had to clear land to get trees to make it through every single winter. And they were hunting the land like crazy. Okay, then came oil, gas, and coal. So now we have machines that can help the farmers out. Plus, we have herbicides and pesticides, which are petroleum-based. So now you know what we're doing? New England states are farming and producing more than ever before on a tiny little bit of land because of herbicides, pesticides, and these machines. And then they start burning coal, which means they don't have to clear cut more trees in order to provide the wood for themselves to make it through the winter. And so what's happened to the New England states, including Vermont? There's 75% forest land now. All of the trees came roaring back. The animals started reproducing and came back. So do you see where I'm going? What would be the complaint from other environmentalists in Vermont? Most of you already got it. For the few who don't, because I know this is a smart audience, I'll explain it. Well, if you're going to put up a bunch of wind turbines and solar panels to power Vermont, how many trees are you going to have to cut down? Holy cow. You're going to have to cut down a lot of trees. The number of trees that you're going to have to cut down to provide space for the wind turbines and solar panels in order to get enough energy. The same amount of energy that is currently being provided by coal. man, are they going to have to cut down huge, massive swaths of forest land in Vermont. And these environmentalists in Vermont are saying to the other environmentalists, no, you know something? We don't want to do this. It's actually going to devastate Vermont to do this. The fun for me is to sit back and watch the environmentalists battle the environmentalists. I love watching this because we've been telling them and telling them and telling them, and they refuse to even listen to us. We're a bunch of fools and deniers, according to them. So they set out on their own. This is why I'm glad we have so many different states that are allowed to take their own path. They decide we're just at Vermont, we're going to take out on our own, and we're just going to do it our way, and screw you. We know what we're talking about. Fine, you guys go do that. And now that they're adding up the numbers, they're faced with actually having to do it. They suddenly realize the environmental devastation that's going to be caused by putting up a bunch of wind turbines and solar panels. Other people in Vermont are starting to add up the cost of what their electricity is going to be. The bill is going to be through the roof. They're not going to be able to afford this. And still other people in Vermont who originally thought this was a great idea are looking back at it now and go, you know something? Wow. When it gets cold enough, and trust me, folks, Vermont can get cold. So when we have a cold winter, which is pretty much every winter, this past winter was really bad. New England states were slammed with snow this past winter. So when the solar panels are all covered in ice and snow, we can't count on them to provide us power. And when the wind turbines are frozen over, and folks, it's not just the internal mechanisms of the wind turbine that gets frozen over, ice will start to gather on the blades. And not only does it weigh the blades down, but it changes the aerodynamics of the blade, and so the blades can't turn. So now, in the wintertime, they begin to realize our wind turbines are not going to be turning. Our solar panels are not going to be collecting. What are we going to do then? So the people of Vermont have found themselves in a really interesting situation here. They're kind of stuck. Now, some of them, I'm glad to see this, are starting to come around and go, oh, that's what they were talking about, and realize that maybe actually burning coal is a better idea. They still haven't given up on the idiotic idea that CO2 is, they think it's pollution. That's what's holding them back. But okay, at least they're starting to turn around and go, you know something, this technology we've been forcing people into isn't really all it's cracked up to be. So here we go, folks. Vermont is stuck. They wrote a law. They just passed a law, 75% wind turbines and solar panels. And they were all gung-ho until they started to realize how many trees they were going to have to cut down, and that they were going to be completely screwed when snow and ice covered up their wind turbines and covered up their solar panels and froze up their wind turbines. Now what? Interesting. You know what's also happened in places like Utah, for example, and Nevada? They want to build these massive solar arrays out there. But there's things like turtles that get in the way, endangered turtles. And there was another one, it was like a salamander or something like that, that are endangered species that live in the exact very areas where they want to put up all of these solar panels, solar collectors. So now, once again, environmentalists are fighting environmentalists. Oh, we're going to put up all of these solar panels because it's going to save the planet. It's going to save us. Oh, dear God, you're going to take up how much habitat for endangered species? Oh, my God. Well, you know how against logging the left is. Well, you know, you can't cut down those trees. There's endangered species living in those trees. You can't cut down those trees. Really? Then how are you going to make room for all those wind turbines?
There are veterans across America having trouble finding work due to mental and physical injuries they received while serving their country. HCCI Transportation is a startup company designed and dedicated to help these hard-working veterans earn the paycheck they need to support themselves and their families. HCCI Transportation Company will be launching very soon, hiring only veterans. HHCI Transportation will be a company set up simply to give back to our nation's heroes and quality of life they need and deserve. Once the company is on the road, we can start providing our veterans with the income, work environment, and quality of life they need and deserve. Veterans are the only people who sacrifice in defense of our great nation, and we owe them much more for our freedom. What they need most is steady, good employment, and you can contribute. Find out how you can help this company launch by calling Shane Annerman, 760-608-7313. That number is 760-608-7313.
I'm Professor Burke from Farmers Insurance, and this is 30 Seconds of Smart. So you want discounts on your home insurance? Upgrade your roof. Upgrade your plumbing. Get a burglar alarm. Get a fire alarm. Combine policies with your spouse. Bundle your coverage. Quit smoking. And of course, talk to farmers, because the more you know about home insurance, the more you can save.
We are farmers.
Get smarter about your insurance at farmers.com.
Stop by and see Lyle Austin, 201 West Lakeway Road in the Lakeway Professional Center, 686-5002. That's 686-5002. Ah, summertime. You know, the great outdoors. You know what half the fun is with getting away from it all? Shopping. I mean, we're talking guns, bows, arrows, knives, camping equipment, from tents to sleeping bags, clothing, bug spray, fishing line, lures, tackle bait, cooking equipment, MREs, even all the latest electronic gadgets, and they've got it all at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports with locations throughout Wyoming. So no matter what you need, before you head out into the great outdoors, do some shopping. That's half the fun, isn't it? Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, conveniently located in Gillette, Wyoming on South Douglas Highway and 1351 CY Drive in Casper.
Smithers, you look exhausted.
Oh, sir, I was at the office half the night.
Really? Well, that's the third night this week.
Yes, sir. I just can't seem to stay away. I'm not sure what's gotten into me.
Dedication, son. I haven't seen that kind of work ethic in years.
Right. Well, I'll probably be at the office late again tonight. There's just so much to do.
You'll want to work late every night at the Office Saloon with Doc McGillicuddy Monday, Tap That Tuesdays, Screw It Wednesdays, Thirsty Thursdays, and thank God it's Friday with Bud and Bud Light specials. And at the office, you'll even want to work weekends, Saturday nights, ladies' nights, and mini-me Sunday. Work late at the Office Saloon, US Highway 14 in Gillette, Wyoming, out toward the airport.
Smithers, is there any luck with that client you've been chasing?
Oh, yes, sir. Last night, she gave me her phone number.
Attaboy, Smithers. Attaboy.
This is Glenn Woods with the Bold Republic Radio Show. We have an opportunity to take this show across the country. Bold Republic can pick up new radio stations coast to coast. But before we can do that, we need to get up on a satellite. And all we need for that is just the startup cost. We can take it from there. And we're asking you if you can partner with us and help. There are benefits and rewards that we'll give you for doing so. Go to boldrepublic.com and click on the satellite to find out how you can help and get the rewards for helping.
What's a good cup of coffee if you can't spit it across the dashboard now and then, right? Oh, yeah, and ruin a good work shirt. Sure, burn the hell out of your inner thighs. We know what you need, though, in a radio program.
Irreverent but honest, and tastefully tacky. It's Glenn Woods.
So Chris on the video stream just asked a very good question here, or made a comment, told a story, whatever you want to call it. He said, on the topic of environmentalism and versus environmentalism, or environmentalists versus environmentalists, he said, remember when he was a kid watching cartoons and hearing one group say, wash the dishes in the sink, it uses less electricity, while another group says, use the dishwasher, it saves water. And he's still very confused about that. Here, I got another one for you. Recycling. I was watching a news story out of Montana, Bozeman, Montana. And they figured out, okay, let's say that you're in, and Bozeman, Montana has laws about recycling. You're supposed to put out your different colored garbage cans and put all your recycling into it, and off it goes to get recycled. Sounds very green, right? Hey, you're saving the planet because all this stuff is getting recycled. Okay, the stuff from Bozeman, Montana travels to Highway 90 and goes down past Sheridan, Wyoming, past Casper, Wyoming. Hello, Casper. All the way down through Cheyenne, Wyoming, down to Colorado before it hits a recycling center. Now, if you're thinking, well, it's just like, what, 1 truckload a month? No, come on, you're talking about a town, a pretty good sized one, Bozeman, Montana. How much recycling do they produce a day or a week if you want? So that takes how many trucks to get your recycling down to the recycling center? So does this make sense to do this? Absolutely not. You think it would. You would think, oh, I'm doing a good thing while I'm recycling this plastic. Really? The energy it takes just to get to the recycling center, you're talking fleets of trucks. You're wasting resources there. Now, if anyone wants to call and say, yeah, but you're creating jobs, I am so sick and tired of people who don't understand what a job is. Because that's actually taking resources from the community, not adding. Here, let me explain to you this way. Let's say, then we'll get back on the environmentalist thing. Let's say that we all lived, you, me, the other listeners out here. We lived on a farm, one farm, way out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, now, in our community, whatever we produce is all we have, right? The clothes that we wear were made right there on the spot. We grow cotton, we have sheep, there are people who take care of those animals, and there are people who then collect the cotton and the wool and make clothes for all of us. Got it? The food, well, there's people out there working the vegetable gardens and the fruits, and there's other people out there taking care of the cattle and the chickens and the eggs and all that kind of stuff. Everything we have, the water that we use, the energy that we use so we can cook and keep ourselves warm in the wintertime, we produce it all ourselves on the spot. Now, over here are a couple of people on this side of our farm, our happy little farm. And they have a very interesting job. One of them is digging a hole. What's the purpose of the hole? But there is no purpose to the hole. They're not gonna, it's just a hole. And as soon as he's done digging the hole, the other person's job is to fill the hole up. Now, they wear clothing made on our farm. You follow me on this? They're eating our food. They're using our energy for their vehicles and to keep warm and to cook their food and so on and so on. But they don't produce anything. So you know what they're doing? What are they then to us? They're a drain on our little society because they're not producing anything. You're only good for the society when what you produce is added into the society. So to dig a hole and have somebody else fill in the hole, and the hole was useless to begin with, what good does that do us? It doesn't. It takes away from society. So there's a bureaucrat sitting in a government office in the town that you live in, and the bureaucrat's doing what? Sitting around filling out useless paperwork. The paperwork isn't needed. If you canceled that person's job and sent them home, nobody would miss them. What is that person adding to your community, adding to your town? Nothing. They're just a drain. That's all. You can say, oh, it's a job. It's a drain because they're not producing anything that adds to your town. So if a bunch of people in Bozeman, Montana are collecting recycled materials, plastics, bottles, paper, and they're driving it all the way down to Colorado to be recycled, what good does that do the community of Bozeman? Absolutely none. It is a waste of a salary. It's a waste of fuel for the trucks. It's the taxpayer money in that community could have actually gone to something productive, but it didn't.
With respect to the notion that I can just suspend deportations through executive order, that's just not the case.
Anybody who tells you it's going to be easier, that I can wave a magic wand and make it happen, hasn't been paying attention to how this town works.
I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States. My job is to execute laws that are passed.
We're not going to use signing statements as a way of doing an end run around Congress. I know some here wish that I could just bypass Congress and change the law myself. But that's not how democracy works.
What I'm going to be laying out is the things that I can do with my lawful authority as president.
Does the president still stand by what he said last year when he said, quote, "I am not the Emperor of the United States. My job is to execute laws that are passed"? Is that still operative?
Absolutely.
Not a king either.
That's right.
To everyone. Subject, an email about email. It seems like everything these days generates email. Every treaty, every trade negotiation, every real estate transaction, and pretty much every lobbyist you talk to makes more and more email. And juggling all those emails can be tough. It's a chore to carry around multiple devices. For most people, it's one device for work, one device for home, and one device for liaising with billionaire Arabs. That's why we made Hillary Mail, the all-in-one email solution for work, for yoga class, or for highly classified information. Your messages are stored far away on a server in the garage of a luxury home in rural New York, protected by a 10-foot fence and a state-of-the-art Secret Service agent named Phil, making sure your email is far from the reach of freedom of information laws, congressional oversight, and journalists. And for extra peace of mind, you have the ability to disappear anything you don't want anyone else to read, regardless of your ethical obligation. Opt for convenience. Opt for Hillary Mail. Hillary Mail is not protected from hacking.
The automobile has remained largely unchanged for over 100 years. Introducing Apple Car. What you first notice when you sit in Apple Car is that there's no wheel or pedals. Siri does all the driving for you by using Apple Maps to take the most efficient route every time. You'll be gliding through back streets with all the ease of an Apple lawyer gliding through corporate tax loopholes.
Siri, take me to Cupertino.
Now driving you to the bottom of Lake Superior.
Crafted unapologetically in styrofoam, Apple Car can be personalized with a range of apologetic silicon covers that elegantly snap on to protect Apple Car's most important feature, Bono, who will sit in the back seat and play every U2 song on loop for the life of the car. The windscreen itself is made from sapphire crystal, which is 1,000 times stronger than glass, unless something touches it. Like most Apple products, Apple Car doesn't crash. And if it does crash, it's probably because of user error. Apple Car wouldn't be an Apple product if it had windows, so we got rid of them and replaced them with gorgeous Retina displays. When it comes to looking at your surroundings, the passenger is always in the driver's seat. If you're driving around Silicon Valley and you don't want to see homeless people, simply swipe them away. Oh look, a harmonious multiracial picnic. That's nice. Apple Car is fully electric, and with Apple's Craptic engine, it can drive continuously for 24 minutes a day on a single charge. And there's enough onboard storage to hide as many Chinese workers that have committed suicide during the assembly of the car, which is 4. And that's 3 more than any other car. Apple Car represents the most important, most magical, most revolutionary, and genuinely exciting automotive industry innovation since the built-in iPhone charger. Need a letter.
Last half hour-ish or so of the program, Boulder Public Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to finish up on an idea because I had a chance while you were listening to those fine local commercial sponsors on your local radio station. I was developing an idea a little bit more in my head, and I'm going to share it with you. And for those who just joined me here, let me do the quick catch-up. You keep getting told, and just recently, Nick DeLotte, president of American Standard Media, your business partner of mine, was talking to somebody in the town that we're in, and the guy had this idea, and so many people do. Well, if you give people welfare, then they're actually adding to the economy because they have to go buy stuff, and that helps the economy. Oh, dear God. If somebody has a job as a bureaucrat, then they're actually adding to the economy because they have a job, and that's good for the economy. You don't know what a job is, do you? I'm sorry, but you don't recognize what a drain on the economy is when you see it. So here's the quick example, run down again. We're all living on a farm together. You, me, all the other listeners. We're on a farm, right? Everything we have, we produce here. We produce our own clothes, our own food, our own energy for our vehicles and to keep us heated in the wintertime and, cook our food, stuff like that. If we don't produce it, we don't have it. So we're a closed little society. Got it? One day, as we're all producing, we all make something to add to the community. Everybody's job has a purpose. Then one day, you look over and see a guy digging a hole. What's the purpose of the hole? Nothing. When he's done with the hole, his buddy goes over and fills the hole up. What did they just produce for our community? Nothing. Not a thing. Yet, they wear the clothes that we make. They eat the food that we produce. They use the energy for our vehicles and to cook and to keep warm. So in other words, they're just a drain on the community. They don't produce anything. They don't add to the community. It's the same for a bureaucrat doing a bunch of useless paperwork for some government agency. And my first test for whether their job is useless or not is if you shut down that bureaucrat's office and send him home, just that's it. We're not doing this anymore. We've basically just phased out your job and canceled it. We're sending it home. My first question is, would anybody notice? Would anybody even notice? What does his job really do? Nothing. So he may have been sitting there all day long filling out forms in the bureaucracy, but his job was useless. So he's actually a drain on the economy. He doesn't add anything. There's no material goods that he produces that adds anything to the economy. But then I thought of something else. Hey, let's take this a step further. What if by closing his office, it actually freed up the economy a little bit more? What if his office actually slows down the economy? And by closing that bureaucrat's office, we actually free up part of the economy. Imagine that. So, how many people right now are business owners out there who have to hire an entire staff just to sit around and do the paperwork to keep up with the government paperwork? You can let all those people go. Now, if you're thinking, yeah, but there are a lot of unemployed people now, that's okay because they weren't producing anything. They did not produce anything to add to our economy. No goods are being produced. So what are those people that are now let go, the bureaucrats that are let go working for government, and those people working in private business that have to do their end of filling out government paperwork? They're all let go. Well, now if they want to survive, they actually have to go get jobs producing something. Material goods. That's what the economy is. The economy is material goods. And so when they get out there and actually start producing material goods, then for once, they're actually adding to the economy. Sitting around filling out useless forms is a drag on the economy. That time, that money, that energy could have been used producing stuff. And that's what the economy is. The food in your belly, the food in your refrigerator, the energy to run your refrigerator, the energy to run your automobile. See, that's what the economy is. The clothes on your back. That's what the economy is. It's the stuff that runs. It's the material goods. So yeah, it's a great idea to eliminate useless jobs. Eliminating useless jobs frees people up to do useful jobs. And if you want the economy to explode and America to become wealthy again, then what you want to make sure to do is to get rid of the useless jobs and make sure everybody out there is doing a job that actually produces something.
Glenn Woods, BoldRepublic.com.
Shave Secret is the best shave ever. Shave Secret is a blend of natural oils that replace shave creams, gels, and powders for men and women of all ethnic backgrounds. Shave Secret is a natural product, nothing artificial. Shave Secret helps prevent nicks, cuts, shave bumps, ingrown hairs, rashes, and more. Shave Secret is clear, non-foaming, so you can see clearly what you're shaving. Shave Secret is economical to use. Takes 3 to 5 drops for the average shave. Shave Secret cleans, conditions, moisturizes the skin all in one application. Shave Secret is compact and great for travel. Ladies, Shave Secret is wonderful for shaving your legs, underarms, and bikini lines. Guys, got a bald head? Shave it. Buy Shave Secret today at Walmart Supercenters and Amazon.com. Online at ShaveSecret.com. That's Walmart Supercenters, Amazon.com. Online at ShaveSecret.com. Great deals online at ShaveSecret.com. Shave Secret, the best shave ever.
Howdy, folks. This is Swede from Swede Specialties here in Gillette, and I'm here today with Mr. Wimpy. Mr. Wimpy, have you ever tried a home-brewed beer?
Oh, no. I only like Wimpy beer.
Would you like to try a home-brewed beer, Mr. Wimpy?
Well, okay, but just a sip. It looks kind of dark.
Just close your eyes and try it. Whoa. Well, Mr. Wimpy, what do you think of homebrew? Now, that's real beer, Pilgrim. But give Swede a call, 307-686-0588, or go to SwedeSpecialties.com.
An ode to Jack Slicker, the adult daycare center. The weather is warming. The birds are swarming. The outdoors would be great if I could escape my fate. We could go fishing, but I'm probably just wishing. I need to relax, so I think I'll go to Jack's. It's the best place in town, where no one there gets me down. The drinks are good and the beer is cold. It's the adult daycare center, or so I'm told. I can go there and have some fun, because prices there are second to none. It's a one place that's full of cheer. Let's go to Jack's and have a beer. They're at 302 East 2nd Street. Oh yeah, that's the place to meet. Jack's Liquor and Bars in Gillette. A great time and prices is what you'll get. So stop in when you're around. It's the best place to get unwound.
Bullsat 1 flight controllers, listen up. I need a go, no-go for launch. Content, go. Humor,
go fly.
Crack research staff,
go.
Fans,
go fly.
Out-of-touch establishment politicians and bureaucrats. Yeah, figures. Sarcasm.
Go fly.
Launch control, this is Bullsat 1. We are go for launch. Okay, wait a minute. Don't we need a satellite?
Be a part of the launch of Bullsat 1. Help this show to go nationwide. Find out more at BoldRepublic.com.
You know, Mom, but they offered me more money to produce Glenn's show now that it's syndicated. Sure, I know. Stocking shelves at Walmart at 2 a.m. has a heck of a lot more prestige than... Whoa, hang on, Mom. You're back.
Let's get back in there. Here's Glenn Woods.
Oh, come on, Mom. Stop crying.
So let me get back to the recycling thing real quick here. If you thought it was such a grand idea to recycle, hold on, folks. Not as grand as you might have thought. Okay, now, and don't misunderstand, there are some things that I think should be recycled. And I would prefer that we let the market handle it rather than government, because, you know, if government tries to do it, they mandate things which takes away your freedom, and we operate at a loss. Some of you guys out there remember a time when you would drink a soda and you could look at the soda bottle and it said like a nickel for recycling. So if you brought the bottle back, they would pay you for that bottle. I remember collecting little bottles, not like some homeless guy looking for. No, every time I drank a soda, because there wasn't a plastic bottle. That was a new thing when I was a kid. Whenever I drank out of a glass bottle, I saved these glass bottles. And I was young enough that nickels, I thought I was going to make some really good money here. Okay, well, turns out recycling glass takes more energy than just making new glass. Now, what is glass? Sand. Is sand a limited resource on this planet? No. In fact, if we were to take care of Iran the way we really need to take care of Iran, or take care of ISIS the way we really need to take care of them, well, they live around a whole lot of sand. We could have all the glass we wanted, but that's another story. No, I digress. So it's actually a lot cheaper and a lot less, when I say cheap, not just money monetarily, but we use a lot less energy just making new glass than we do recycling glass. So if you really want to save the environment, don't recycle glass. Now, that's one. Now, tin cans, recycle them. The amount of energy that it takes to pull tin out of a mountainside or out of a mine somewhere and refine it and make a tin can, compared to the amount of energy that's needed to just melt down old tin cans and make them into new tin cans. It actually is more cost effective just to reuse the tin. So recycle tin. All right, what about newspapers? See, I remember one time, I'm a dork like this. I actually get curious about these things and go flipping around and researching and looking them up. What about this? What about recycling newspapers? Because when I first heard, hey, recycle newspapers, I thought, what a great idea. This is brilliant. Why cut down more trees? We've already cut down the tree. How many times can we use the paper before we can't anymore? There, saves the trees, right? Sounds good? Okay, first off, trees are a renewable resource. Oh, and here's a side note for you. Not only can you plant more trees, logging companies cut down trees, they plant more. Oftentimes, they plant more than they cut down. I know environmentalists will tell you that I'm lying. It's absolutely true. Why? Because they consider it a crop. But, sometimes when they go into an area and they clear cut, environmentalists go, oh, they clear cut the area, and they act as if the area is permanently devastated. I got news for you. A lot of people listening to right now live in a prairie area, and maybe you've never been there. I'll tell you. Go into a deeply wooded area, you know what you find? A lot of little saplings struggling to get enough sunlight to grow big. They'll never be able to do it because of all the big trees, and they die. But, pardon me, sneezing there. Never do that on the air. That's why there's a microphone button. What if you clear cut the area, and then all of a sudden, all of these little saplings that were going to die, and trust me, they're all over the place, have enough sunlight to shoot up. Come back in just a few years, and you find trees are growing all over the place. So it's okay to clear cut. Now, recycling paper, worth it or not from a cost-effective point of view? Well, not just is it more cost-effective just to cut down a new tree, but it turns out in order to recycle newspaper, for example, recycling newspaper takes a lot of harsh chemicals that you have to bathe to get the ink out, things like that. It's a toxic chemical bath. So you're a lot better off, say, if you want to save the environment, not to use recycled paper. Go ahead and use brand new paper every single time. It's better for the environment. I bet you've never been told this, most of you. Some of you knew this. Most of you have never been told this, but you should have been if those people really did care about the environment.
Hey friends, do you find yourself living in California and able to buy less and less of the basic fun and necessities of life? Well, now you can, because of a new chain of stores opening up on the California border. It's Banned in California. Yes, Banned in California provides all the products that you're no longer allowed to buy inside the California border. Guys, have you been wanting to buy that new fur coat for the little lady? What about that massive, energy-guzzling, big screen TV? You'll find it on sale now at Banned in California. Serious lawnmowers that get the job done and big SUVs. And yes, to keep those little kitties happy, get them a Happy Meal with extra trans fat in the food court, of course. And feel free to walk around and smoke inside while the little lady goes to the tanning bed. Yes, Banned in California, now located at every state location along the California border. Illegal immigrants on staff to show you how to sneak back across the border with everything you've purchased. Sending your kids out to play.
Now hold still. Mommy, I can't breathe.
Well, playtime's not what it used to be.
Am I supposed to go out and play if I can't even move?
Well, with all the dangers that are out there in the world, like Nerf, soccer balls, hugs, and who knows, your kid might come across a 5-year-old selling lemonade on their front lawn after school.
Now this is for your own safety. Put your helmet on.
It's hot all this stuff.
Don't take any chances in today's dangerous world. Make sure to bubble wrap your kids before they step out the front door.
This isn't fun anymore. I don't want to go out and play if it isn't fun anymore.
Don't forget knee pads, shoulder pads, elbow pads, and helmets. Earplugs in case you hear any offensive words. 911 on speed dial on their cell phone. The number of a counselor, just in case they see, hear, feel, smell anything that might be considered remotely offensive. Better idea, just keep them inside. It's far too dangerous out there in the real world. It's the Obama administration bankruptcy liquidation sale. Everything must go. Solar panels at greatly discounted prices. Get them now before we throw them in the trash. Windmills bigger than you've ever seen. Never before driven. Limited mileage. Chevy Bolts at rock bottom prices. Get them now before they catch on fire too. It's the Obama administration liquidation bankruptcy sale. If it's green, it's gone. It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. Last 7 minutes of the program. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. As always, pretty much everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more, you find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. I've been saying for a long time, and this is why I talk about things like recycling now and then and the myth of recycling, because I love challenging, and I do this with myself all the time, which is why I do it with you guys. I love challenging all of these things that we were told were true. You swear these were true. This is supposed to be true. They told you, and it was beaten into your head since you were a little kid that this is the case. Then you find out it's absolutely not true, and it's so difficult for people to let go. Here's another one for you. So you're told over and over again that dump sites in America, where you take your trash, the city landfill, the county landfill, how horrible and devastating and toxic they are. And we're trashing up the whole country. We're burying the country in trash. And nothing could be further from the truth. You could take an area. You can actually do this. You can take an area 15 miles by 15 miles square. Okay? And we could put all of America's trash for hundreds of years right there. And it will never pile up to the sky. Okay? My jokes are recycled, says DJ. Well, now that depends, DJ. You've been around me long enough to hear the same jokes over and over again. That's why they're recycled. But the new people, for the new people, this is new jokes, okay? So you could actually take an area 15 miles by 15 miles and make it a landfill for hundreds of years, and it's never going to get out of hand.
It's not going to pile up to the sky. It's not going to make the area a toxic area that nobody can ever live again. In fact, most landfills around America, they last for decades. And then after decades, they're covered over. No, they're not leaking toxic waste or anything like that. That's taken care of. They line these things. And they build golf courses on top of them or a city park or something like that. And it works out and that becomes incredibly fertile land because of what's underneath it. It's not a toxic fill at anything. There is, however, naturally speaking, methane coming up from these places. You know what happens? They capture the methane and use it. So it turns out landfills, ecologically, are actually really good places. Yeah, I know they stink. They look horrible. They smell horrible. I've been to a few to dump off some trash, and I look and I go, ew, gross. Yet what we're doing there is nothing but good for the environment. Now, you're told exactly the opposite. We're destroying the planet with these landfills. No, actually, we're not. We're helping the planet with these landfills. Rather than spreading our trash all over the place, we're actually putting it all in one place where decades from now, that land, as things break down underneath the soil, becomes some of the richest land on the planet as all of that stuff broke down. And think about it. Whether it's plastic, where does plastic come from? Yes, we sort of made it artificially, but that stuff comes from the earth. Everything that we do comes from the earth. So where are we putting all of that stuff? Right back into the earth. So you're told we're destroying the planet with our landfills. No, we're not. By the way, you're also being lied to and told that your coal-fired power plants are giving you emphysema, asthma, cancer, and that's not true either. And of all things, they want to regulate CO2 to stop you. CO2 is not going to give you emphysema or cancer or asthma. What's really interesting is to so many of us, this is what's interesting to me, to so many of us, we have spent a lifetime listening to these people. I mean, we would like Chris was saying on the video stream, you sit there watching Saturday morning cartoons when you're a kid, and they just beat this stuff into you. And then when you're an adult, somebody comes along with new information that shows, actually none of that was true. And it becomes difficult, doesn't it? To take a look at it and go, you know something? I've been lied to all this time. And those neural pathways are set. It's upsetting to have to take, here's a childhood, I'm about to destroy your entire childhood. You ready? Somebody looked up, I wish they had never done this. I want to live in denial over this. Somebody went and looked up the running speed for a coyote. Then they looked up the land running speed for a roadrunner. Yeah, horrible, isn't it? It turns out that a coyote runs a lot faster than a roadrunner does. A lot faster. A coyote can catch a roadrunner anytime he wants. My entire childhood was a lie. Okay, it's tough. Tough to reset your brain. Hey, DJ, were you talking about the Yo Mama jokes that are going on? Well, on the news crawl, I'm not running news. During the entire radio show here, I've been running on the video feed a bunch of Yo Mama jokes. Well, we could put news on the news crawl, but what fun is that? All right, tomorrow's Thursday. We'll do it all over again. Same time, same radio station. See you then.